Welcome to Reddit Stories Podcast. I'm Mr. Redder, and tonight we've got some unbelievable stories for you to binge. Tonight, OP discovers that her fiancé has been cheating on her with her own mother. What happens next? You're gonna find out. So sit back, relax, and get ready for hours of the craziest Reddit stories you'll ever hear.
Don't keep us waiting, Reddit boy. Spill the tea.
Oh, and by the way, Karen promised me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she'll finally stop defending cheaters.
I may be a Karen, but at least I stay loyal to my coupons and iced coffee.
So please, barbecue that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit. Let's dive in. I caught my fiancé and my mom having an affair. I wish I was joking. I never thought I'd be the type of person to go through my fiancé's phone. I've always believed that if you had to snoop, the relationship was already over. But then again, I also never thought I'd be the type of person whose fiancé was cheating on her with her own mother. Yeah, let that sink in. My own mother. It all started with little things, small enough that I kept convincing myself I was imagining it. Jake, my fiancé, started being weird with his phone. He used to leave it lying around, face up, no passcode. But lately, he wouldn't even go to the bathroom without it. Then there were the random smirks while texting, the nights when he would say he was exhausted and roll away from me in bed. At first, I told myself it was just wedding stress. We were only 4 months away from the big day, and planning had been a nightmare. But my gut wouldn't let it go. Something was wrong, and I knew it. Then the final straw. He started dodging my family gatherings. Not all of them, just the ones where my mom would be there. It made no sense. He had always been close with her. He used to joke that she liked him more than she liked me. I thought it was cute, until suddenly it wasn't. So one night when he was in the shower, I grabbed his phone. I know, invasion of privacy. But tell me you wouldn't have done the same. At first, I didn't see anything suspicious, just the usual group chats and work emails. Then I scrolled to his text with my mom. My stomach dropped. It was right there in plain sight. The messages weren't even disguised as anything else. No fake names, no codes, just her name. And the filthiest, most stomach-turning texts I'd ever read.
I can still smell you on me. She's clueless. I love the risk, don't you? We can't do this at my place again. She's getting suspicious.
And then a picture. Nothing too spicy, thankfully, but it was a selfie of my mother and my fiancé's t-shirt in our bed. I dropped the phone like it burned me. My whole body went cold, then hot, then numb. It felt like my brain just couldn't process the betrayal, like my mind was refusing to accept what my eyes had just seen. I stormed out of the apartment. I didn't even take my car. I just walked, fuming and shaking, until I found myself standing in front of my mother's house. I didn't knock. I didn't care that it was nearly midnight. I just walked in. She was sitting on the couch, casually sipping a glass of wine like she hadn't just detonated my entire world.
Oh,
she said, surprised.
Did you call first?
I lost it. Are you serious? My voice came out strangled, like I was choking on rage. You think I'm here for a casual visit? She frowned, setting her wine down.
What's wrong with you?
I know, I spat. I know about you and Jake. She didn't even flinch. That was the worst part. Not guilt, not shame, just a slow, tired sigh.
I was wondering when you'd find out.
I wanted to fight then and there. I've never felt that kind of rage before. My own mother. How could you? My voice cracked. How the heck could you do this to me? She rolled her eyes.
Sweetheart, don't be dramatic.
Dramatic? I nearly shrieked. You slept with my fiancé, and you have the audacity to act like I'm overreacting? She stood up then, crossing her arms.
Look, it's not like I planned this, okay? But Jake and I have chemistry.
I almost threw up. Chemistry? I repeated. He's 29. You're 52. She scoffed.
And? He's a grown man. He makes his own decisions.
I could barely breathe. You're my mother.
So?
She shrugged.
It's not my fault you never appreciated what you had.
That sentence knocked the wind out of me. What I had? I whispered. What I had? She didn't back down.
You were always so focused on the wedding, on your job, on everything else. You took him for granted. Maybe if you had been more present, he wouldn't have come to me.
I saw red. You don't get to lecture me about being present, I snapped. You were never there for me. Not when I was a kid, not when Dad left, not when I needed a mother. You were too busy chasing after men, partying, treating me like some unwanted responsibility. And now, after all these years, you finally take an interest in my life? And this is how? She sighed, looking bored.
Are you done?
I had never hated anyone more in my life. Yeah, I said, voice shaking. I'm done. I never want to see you again. You're not my mother. I turned to leave, but she called after me.
Oh, come on. You'll get over this.
I didn't look back. I walked out, blocking her number before I even reached my car. As for Jake, oh, don't worry. When I got home, I threw his crap onto the front lawn and changed the locks. He had the nerve to beg, to cry, to say it meant nothing. I didn't care. He was dead to me. And you know what? The next morning, when I woke up alone in my apartment, I expected to feel empty. I expected to break down, to regret, to grieve. But I didn't. I made my coffee, I sat on my couch, and let the silence settle around me. And for the first time in months, I felt light. So yeah, that's how I found out my fiancé and my mother were sleeping together. My wedding is off, my engagement is over, and as far as I'm concerned, I have no mother. And you know what? I think I'm finally okay with that. Update. A lot of people have been asking me if I got revenge on my mother and my ex. At first, I wasn't planning to. I just wanted to cut them out of my life and move on. But then, my mother had the nerve to act like she was the victim, and I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. I threw Jake out, blocked my mother, and tried to move on. But then, I started hearing things through the family grapevine. Apparently, my mother had been playing the victim to everyone. She told people that I had overreacted to a misunderstanding and that I had disowned her over a little mistake. She conveniently left out the part where the little mistake was sleeping with my fiancé behind my back. She even tried to spin it like Jake had manipulated her, like she was some innocent, lonely woman who got swept up in the lies of a younger man. I was furious. She wasn't sorry, she didn't feel guilty, she wasn't even ashamed. And that's when I decided she was going to be ashamed. One thing about my mother, she lives for appearances. She's heavily involved in her church, always bragging about how respected she is in our community. So I made sure they knew exactly what kind of person she really was. I started with a single message. I sent screenshots of her text with Jake to one of the women from her church, an older lady who had always loved to gossip. I didn't say a word, just let the text speak for themselves. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. By the next Sunday, everyone in the congregation knew. And my mother? She was kicked out. I heard from my aunt that the church leaders confronted her and then told her she was no longer welcome in their women's group or any leadership positions. She had been humiliated in front of everyone. Of course, she immediately knew I was behind it. She called me furious.
You're ruining my life,
she screamed the moment I picked up. I laughed, like I actually laughed. Oh, you mean like how you ruined mine? She kept ranting about how I had embarrassed her, how people were looking at her differently now, how she had lost her friends. I let her talk. Then, when she finally ran out of steam, I said, "Good, now you know how it feels." She started crying then, saying she never meant to hurt me. I hung up. She can cry all she wants, but she never once apologized. Not once. And even if she did, I wouldn't care. Jake tried reaching out too, left a long voicemail about how he made a mistake and he missed me. I didn't even listen to the whole thing. I deleted it and blocked his number. I won't pretend this didn't destroy me. It did. Some nights I still lie awake thinking about the betrayal and wondering how long they had been sneaking around behind my back. But you know what? I feel lighter. I feel stronger. For the first time in my life, my mother is facing consequences. No more playing the perfect church woman while secretly being a snake. No more lying and manipulating her way out of everything. She wanted to act shameless? Well, now the whole world knows. And I can finally start moving forward. Well, Karen, I think we can both agree. Cheating is just about the lowest thing you can do in a relationship.
Right, and you know what gets me? Cheaters always have the dumbest excuses. It didn't mean anything. Oh, really? Then why did you risk your entire future over it? Was the betrayal on sale or something?
Limited time offer. Betray your loved ones and lose everything.
Like, if you're gonna betray someone, at least do it like a normal person. By secretly watching the next episode of your favorite show without them.
The ultimate crime.
Alright, Reddit boy, what do we have next? Hopefully something less disgusting than the last disaster.
Well, tonight's next tale will literally send shivers down your spine. So if you don't like spooky stories, I'd suggest going down to the timestamps and jumping to the next story. Okay, you've been warned. I found a hidden room in my new house. If only I hadn't opened it. I should have left it alone. I should have ignored the weird feeling in my gut and just moved on. But curiosity got the best of me, and now I can't sleep. I can't stop thinking about what I found down there. Let me start from the beginning. A few months ago, I bought an old house. It was a great deal, one of those too good to be true listings, but I convinced myself I had just gotten lucky. The house needed work though. The floors creaked, the plumbing was ancient, and there were layers of peeling wallpaper that probably hadn't been touched in decades. The worst part was the basement. It was unfinished, cold, and damp, with exposed stone walls and a single flickering light bulb. From the moment I stepped down there, I felt uneasy. It was like the air itself was heavier. At first, I brushed it off. It was an old house, so of course it had its quirks. But then, the weird things started happening. Late at night, I would hear faint noises coming from the basement. Sometimes it was a soft tapping. Other times it sounded like something shifting down there, like furniture being dragged across the floor. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself that old houses settle and they make noise. But no matter how many times I told myself that, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Then, one night, I was moving boxes into the basement when I noticed something strange. Against the far wall, there was a large wooden shelving unit, bolted into place. It looked out of place, almost like someone had put it there to hide something. I stepped closer, running my hand along the edges, and that's when I realized the wall behind it didn't match the others. It was recessed, as if there was a small space behind it. Something about it sent a chill down my spine. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. The next day, I grabbed my tools and I started unbolting the shelves. The screws were rusted and difficult to remove, but after struggling with them for a while, I finally managed to pull the shelving unit away from the wall. That's when I saw it. A door. It was old, painted the same color as the basement walls, which explained why I hadn't noticed it before. There was no handle, just a keyhole. I knelt down, trying to peek through, but it was pitch black inside. I felt my stomach twist. I searched the basement for a key, but I found nothing. The only way in was to remove the door entirely. After a long hesitation, I grabbed a crowbar and got to work. The hinges were stiff, but eventually I managed to pry the door free. A rush of cold air hit me in the face. It smelled damp, like earth and mildew. It was just a small room with a single wooden chair in the middle. I swallowed hard and turned my flashlight toward the walls. That's when I noticed the carvings. Strange symbols covered nearly every inch of stone. Some looked like tally marks, but others were more intricate, like they had been etched with purpose. A shiver ran down my spine, and I took a shaky step backward. That was when I heard it. A whisper. It was faint, almost too quiet to notice, but I heard it. A voice, desperate and strained, coming from the hole in the wall. I ran. I bolted up the stairs, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. It didn't stop. I ran all the way upstairs, locked every door, and sat in my bedroom with my back against the wall, gripping my phone like a lifeline. I couldn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called a contractor. I didn't tell him what I had found, just that I wanted the basement sealed off. I wanted a wall built over the entire section. He gave me a weird look, but agreed to do it. A few days later, the hidden room was gone, buried behind a fresh drywall. I haven't gone back down there since, but sometimes, late at night, when the house is completely silent, I still hear it. A whisper, calling my name. Okay, I'll admit it. That one got me. My spine is tingling quite a bit right now.
Oh, please. You call that scary?
You obviously haven't met my friend Joanne.
She's the president of an HOA and head member of the PTA board.
Look, Karen, I don't care how many customer service reps you and your friends have terrorized. That story was scary, man.
Nah, I've had worse experiences at a Walmart on Black Friday. We need to ask our friends if they'd like to hear more scary stories in the future.
All right then, everybody. What'll it be? Should we do more scary stories in the future? We'd really love to hear from you if you've got a moment.
But only if you have your phone with you. Like, don't get up to go get it or anything like that. That's too much work. I command you to relax while you binge our stories.
Am I the jerk for refusing to support my mom financially, even though she raised me? I, 28 male, and my sister, 30 female, grew up with a single mom who's 54, who always told us that family takes care of family. As we got older, we realized that what she really meant was that we were supposed to take care of her. Mom was never great with money. She bounced between jobs, never saved a cent, and always found someone to blame for her problems. She would tell us things like,
"If I had a rich husband, things would be different." Or, "You kids don't understand how hard it is to be a single mother."
Growing up, my sister and I were constantly aware of our financial instability. We never had new clothes, birthday parties, or vacations. We lived in cheap apartments, dodged eviction houses, and knew exactly how much groceries cost because we were sent to buy the cheapest possible items. Meanwhile, my mom would get her hair done, buy expensive makeup, and constantly order takeout because, according to her, she deserved nice things. The moment my sister and I got our first jobs as teenagers, she started taking money from us. At first, it was small, 20 here, 50 there, but it quickly became a habit. If we said no, she would guilt trip us.
"I raised you, and this is how you repay me."
By the time I was in college, I realized my mom wasn't just struggling. She was financially reckless. My sister and I agreed that once we were financially independent, we would not let her drag us down. Fast forward to now. My sister and I both have stable careers. I work in finance and she's in tech. We have decent savings, live comfortably, and for the first time, we don't have to worry about money. Mom, on the other hand, is exactly the same. Broke, unemployed, and expecting us to fix it. Last month, she called me, crying about how her landlord was evicting her. She needed $5,000 to cover back rent and moving expenses. I told her no. I wasn't rude about it, just firm. I said, "Mom, I love you, but I'm not responsible for your financial situation." She lost it. She screamed, cried, and accused me of being a heartless, ungrateful son. She even dragged my sister into it, calling her and demanding money. When my sister also refused, my mom sent a mass text to our extended family about how we had abandoned her after everything she sacrificed for us. Now we're getting messages from aunts and uncles telling us that we're cruel. Some are saying that we owe her because she raised us alone. My sister is standing firm, but I'm starting to feel guilty. Am I the jerk? Update. A few days after I posted this, things escalated. My mom showed up at my workplace unannounced. She was crying loudly in the lobby, making a huge scene, saying she had nowhere to go and that I was letting my own mother become homeless. My boss had to call security to escort her out. It was humiliating. After that, my sister and I sat down and had a serious talk. We agreed that we could not keep letting her manipulate us. We also found out that she had been telling different family members completely different stories. To some, she said that we had been giving her money but suddenly cut her off. And to others, she said we had promised to take her in, but then kicked her out. But none of it was true. When my mom realized we weren't giving in, she switched tactics. She started posting on Facebook about how her selfish kids had abandoned her. She called my sister's workplace, pretending to be a sick relative just to get past the receptionist. She even tried to guilt trip our grandparents, who are both in their 80s, into sending her money. At this point, my sister and I decided to go no contact with her for a while. It was not an easy choice, but we felt like we had no other option. Update 2. It's been about a month since we cut contact, and honestly, it's been peaceful. I didn't realize how much of my life had revolved around my mom's financial chaos until it was gone. However, a few days ago, my mom sent an email that accidentally made me pause. She said she was sorry for how she acted and that she understood why we had to step back. She asked if we could talk. I was skeptical, but I agreed to meet her for coffee. My sister refused, saying she didn't trust her. When I met up with her, she cried and said she had been struggling with depression and that she only acted out of fear. She promised me she was working on herself. She didn't ask me for money even once. I want to believe her, but I'm not sure if she's really changed. My sister says this is just another manipulation tactic. I'm torn on whether to give her another chance or to keep my distance. Would I be a fool to believe her? Not the jerk. Your mother raised you because that was her job as a parent, not a loan you have to repay. She spent years making bad financial choices and expects you and your sister to fix them. That's not your responsibility. The way she escalated by harassing your workplaces, smearing you to family, and showing up at your job shows she's manipulative, not desperate. Now that she's facing real consequences, she suddenly understands. Be careful. Real change comes from actions, not words. You're not abandoning her, you're protecting yourself. Stay strong and do not let guilt pull you back in. You know, if it weren't for these crazy Reddit stories, I never would have known people like this actually exist. The absolute level of entitlement.
Speaking of entitlement, we are definitely entitled to a thumbs up from our viewers. After all, we put in so much work sitting here in our private library all day, way up here at the top of our penthouse. I could be in the pool right now, you know.
All right, folks, you heard her. Barbecue that thumbs up, or next she'll be coming after your wallet. And trust me, she's got premium taste. My Karen wife can't come to terms with the fact that we will never be rich. My wife, who's 33 female, and I, 32 male, met in college. She was in a marketing program and I was in computer science. She ended up not finishing her degree, but got a fairly good starting job in the field anyway because her friend's dad hired her for his business. While she got her job through nepotism, I do know that she is talented and good at it. I finished my degree. We don't live in a high-dollar area for careers and have stayed because it's close to her family. She started out at about $35,000 a year and I started out at $65,000 a year. Flash forward to now, she's making $50K a year and I'm making $100K. It still doesn't feel like we are doing all that well. Sure, the bills are always paid and we can eat at the occasional nice restaurant, but we were barely able to afford a lower middle-class house. We can't afford to go on jet-setting exotic vacations. We don't live paycheck to paycheck, but the money just doesn't ever go as far as you would think it does. The thing is, I'm happy. I grew up dirt poor, and my parents were always stressed. My wife and I never are. We have a nice, albeit modest, house. We can afford our small hobbies and comforts. We can go on vacations within the continental US. We just can't really afford to go to Hawaii or the Caribbean. We aren't rich, but we have it so much better than so many people. I feel truly thankful and content. She, on the other hand, has fallen deeper and deeper into depression, and it's always the same thing she talks about. She wants a new car. She wants a hugely expensive renovation to the house that we don't actually need. The house was updated when we bought it. She wants to go shopping for whatever specific brand of clothes or makeup. She wants a 2-week vacation in Maui or Paris. She recently just keeps talking about how she's not where she thought she'd be at this point in life. She goes on and on about it. She compares us to our friends and how good they have it. The thing is, those friends she's comparing us to are people who come from generational wealth. They have it good because their parents handed it to them. She can't seem to come to terms with just how good we truly have it. All she can see is what we don't have. The most frustrating thing is that a lot of our financial situation, that again, I'm comfortable with, is held back by her. She's making about as much money as she can in her field without a degree. I'm making twice what she is now, and I'm not done moving up the ladder. I've tried over and over again to get her to go back to school, but she just won't. At this point, it might not even matter. Her credits are so old, I don't even know if they would count anymore, and she'd probably have to start over. On top of that, she makes comments like, "I thought when I married a software engineer that I wouldn't have to work anymore." Basically alluding to the fact that I'm not making enough to fit her lifestyle. I love her, but I'm so tired. I'm tired of coming home from a busy day at work, thinking that I'll finally get to relax and decompress, only to hear her constant negativity about money. I've talked with her so many times over the years, and in so many ways, but I just can't get through to her. We tried couples counseling, but it did nothing. I've begged her to do personal counseling, but she's not interested. I'm at the very end of my rope, and I'll take any advice you can give. At this point, I almost want to tell her to divorce me already so she can find a 50-year-old divorcee to be her sugar daddy. What can I do to help her accept our lot in life? Or is it time that I stop wasting energy and let her go? $150,000 is a good income for a 2-person household. She has to be realistic. If she wants to prioritize travel, something else has to give. If she wants nicer clothes and products, she can forget about expensive travel, etc. Don't accuse my brother of stealing and don't discuss the situation with him again? Okay, I can do that. This story took place many years ago. I was in my late teens. One of my older brothers had moved out of the house a while back and moved in with a girlfriend who had a kid around age 7. I'll call my brother Bobby, not his real name, his girlfriend Mama Bear, and her kid will be Kiddo. As a late December baby, I would get my Christmas gift and be told it's also my birthday gift, then just get something really small on my birthday. Gee, thanks. So most years, I didn't get as good gifts as my siblings got, but I never complained. But this one year, I was given a Sony Walkman. Yeah, it was that long ago. Then a couple of days later from my birthday, I got a battery charger with rechargeable batteries. It was actually fair for once, because the Walkman and charger together were probably worth the same as each of my siblings got for Christmas and birthday put together. But Bobby got really jealous and would complain to me that it wasn't fair. He was constantly on my case about it. I told him it was for both gifts and to just lay off, but he remained angry. Eventually he stopped, but I didn't realize just how jealous he was, or that he was holding a grudge. Fast forward a few months. My Walkman is missing. My room is always a mess, so I assume that I misplaced it, but I can't find it. I get scared that I've lost it somewhere outside the house, so it's gone forever. Then I notice my battery charger is also missing, and I remember how jealous Bobby was. He still came to the house every other day, so next time he's over, I ask him if he took it. He hotly denies it, telling me that I probably just lost it. Since the charger's missing too, I know that's not the case. The other siblings couldn't have it in the house without me knowing. Plus, he's the only one that acted jealous. The next couple of times Bobby comes over, I go to him again, but he still denies it. I can tell that he's lying. We yell and we argue. My mom gets sick of it. She tells me to stop accusing Bobby of stealing my Walkman. I protest that I know he took it. She tells me not to speak with him about it again. So now I'm really annoyed. Not long after that, at a family dinner, Bobby brings Mama Bear and Kiddo. The other siblings are all around. All I can think is Bobby stole my Walkman, but I'm not allowed to accuse Bobby of stealing my Walkman or to speak to him about it. So I turn to Kiddo, and in a happy, excited voice I ask, "Hey Kiddo, did Bobby get a new Walkman?" Kiddo's face lights up. She smiles. She's super excited. "Oh yes, he did." And then she trails off and her face drops and she looks guilty. And you can just tell that she's done something that she wasn't supposed to do. The whole family heard this. My mom told Bobby to give it back. He begrudgingly did. The funny thing? He didn't give back the charger, claimed he never took it. We argued more and he insisted he didn't have it. A while later, I found the charger. If the charger wasn't missing, I wouldn't have been so sure that he took it, and I probably would have backed off. So it seems messy room also paid off. One thing I want to add, I realized that I put Kiddo in a difficult position, but Bobby wouldn't dare mess with Kiddo because of Mama Bear. Aside from maybe telling her not to tell me that he got a new Walkman, since Mama Bear saw this all happen, she knew what was going on. They broke up not too long after that, and I have no idea why, or if this played any part in it. Am I the jerk for not allowing my maid of honor / sister's boyfriend to come to the wedding? I, 29 female, have told my sister and maid of honor, who's 20 female, that her boyfriend is not allowed to come to my wedding, and she's furious. Because I told her no, she has responded by not coming to my bachelorette or bridal party, and she's not been active at all in the wedding process. She thinks that I'm being unfair and a jerk, as other people are bringing partners that have been together for a shorter time than her and her boyfriend. My sister has been with her boyfriend for about 8 months. They've traveled together and basically lived together. She's sure that they're going to get married. The thing is, when they met, she was already engaged to her partner of 10 years, whom all of my family loved deeply. She met her new boyfriend at work. She was engaged and he was married. Essentially, they both had affairs and left their partners to be with each other. I've met this guy and I don't like him at all. 1, he's still married and in the process of divorcing his wife. We've all heard that before. 2, I had an honest conversation with him asking his intentions with my sister and why he ended it with his wife. His excuse was that his previous wife forced him into the relationship and he didn't know what love was until he met my sister, which sounds like immature, manipulative BS to me. 3, his values are completely different than my sister's, which I believe opposites attract, but on fundamental things that I know my sister feels passionately about, she seems to have made herself smaller and more agreeable with some crazy views. My sister is turning into someone no one in my family can recognize. However, I don't want to lose her if it means having to accept this guy into our family. Being isolated in a toxic relationship is a scary place to be, and I fear that if I don't invite him into the fold, she will follow him out the door. None of our family members outside the immediate know about her infidelity or even this new boyfriend. I don't want my wedding to be focused on the talk about what happened to my sister, but I really hate how she isn't supporting me, and she is one of my maids of honor, and I'm the first sibling to get married. My mom thinks I should invite him, and she's sympathetic towards my sister, even though she also does not support her recent actions. Am I the jerk if I don't allow my sister's boyfriend to come to the wedding? Or do I give in to her request and invite him? Edit. She's only asked me about his invitation after I sent out my table placement charts and catering count. I honestly never thought she would want him to come in the first place since our father does not want him there as well, and culture plays a big part in that. She hasn't told anyone about the guy except for the immediate family, parents and sisters, and she wants us to use this event as the opportunity to be his big reveal, if I haven't made that clear. Not the jerk, it's your wedding. But if I'm being frank, I wouldn't attend if my partner was being excluded. I, 38 male, think I need to eventually break up with my pregnant girlfriend, who's 41. Although we haven't been dating very long, 2 years, my girlfriend and I had always talked about the possibility of having kids. A few months ago, we were going through a rough patch and she found out she was pregnant. We talked about it and we were both optimistic that we could make things work, so we decided to keep the baby. Her age was also a big factor in this decision. In the weeks leading up to her moving into my place, the same issues started cropping up again. We get along most days, but have very different worldviews about finances, religion, cleanliness, friends, decor, etc. All of which has been exacerbated by living together. Although we have a lot of similar ideas about raising kids, the particulars about this coming kid has been the source of most of our current issues. For example, I had a strong idea about the name I preferred, but we eventually decided to name the kid after one of her grandparents. I genuinely liked the name, and I came up with a middle name that we both agreed on that would let me use the nickname I liked. But since then, she has been pushing hard for me to not use the nickname. Her issue is that the nickname is too common and ordinary, which I think is a strange issue to have. She's gotten genuinely upset over this nickname, and we've had multiple talks about it. Also, her mom asked to stay with us for a couple of weeks after the baby is born to help. After some hesitation, we saw the value in the offer and we agreed. I then asked if my mom could come for the couple weeks after her mom to do the same thing. We have a separate mother-in-law unit, so it's actually really convenient, and they would not be in the way. At this, she gave a hard no. She says that she doesn't want to risk snapping at my mom during an emotionally vulnerable time. These are just a couple of the many examples, but they all revolve around us making compromise and then her not letting my part of the compromise exist. I've talked to her about this dynamic multiple times, and though I've tried to be gracious, it's getting more and more difficult to not see the pattern as deliberately targeting any contribution I try to make. I'm tempted to chalk some of this up to pregnancy hormones, but since I've known her, I've watched her push away some of her closest friends and family, while at the same time blaming them instead of looking at her role in it. Although she can be kind and protective to people she considers in her inner circle, it doesn't take much to be cast out of that circle. I've come to see her as someone who likes to hold grudges and is not open to forgiveness, even over small issues. She would rather rage quit than deal with things. Her sister sent a pretty harsh text to her before their falling out, and as she read her sister's text to me out loud, I found myself agreeing with everything that was said. All of this to say that I feel like I'm questioning whether we can or should stay together. I'm genuinely excited to be a dad, but she got pregnant while we were still getting to know each other. And the more I'm learning, the more I don't think she's the right person for me. I'm open to therapy, but therapy feels like something you do when you want to fight for something. And besides sharing a kid, I'm not sure what else I would be fighting for. I'm not planning on making any big decisions until after the baby is born, but I guess I'm just trying to figure out if there's any way to salvage this, or if it would actually be better for the baby if we separate. If we did separate, is there any better time to do it? Sooner or later? Should the baby be a couple years old first? Any advice is appreciated. 2 years is not early in the relationship, especially at your ages. It's not an issue that she wants her mom and not yours. Same thing happened with my wife and our daughters. Her mom came for a few weeks. Mine offered, but we turned her down because my wife was concerned about not being able to be herself with her in-law there, and that makes complete sense. Am I the jerk for having an issue with my boyfriend's family violating the boundaries of our apartment? I, female 24, recently moved in with my boyfriend, let's call him John, male 24. John is from India and had moved to the US for college and now work. We live in his apartment in New York City, But over the past few months since I moved in, I've noticed a weird issue. While John's family is based in India, several of his family members have shifted to New York City in the past couple of years for school, work, etc. About 5 of them live in the city. I'm unsure of his specific relationship to each one, but he treats them all like siblings, despite an age range of 18 to 32 between the 5 of them, with none of them being his real siblings. The problem began when I realized his family members just show up to the apartment whenever they feel like it. They all have keys, and they all come in and out throughout the week. Sometimes randomly staying the night in the guest room, coming over to watch TV, or make some food even when John and I are not home, etc. This was incredibly jarring for me, because it felt like there was no privacy left to be within the house when all these people could just come in, borrow things, use the apartment, and leave. It's not that they made a mess or broke things, but it was just them using our apartment as their own. Yesterday I had come over, and one of his younger sisters, who's around 19, was cooking something in the kitchen, and having had a long, tiring day, I just wanted to come home to a silent, quiet apartment to relax in. Upset at the noise and smell, I asked her why she thought she had the random right to come into our apartment whenever she felt like it and use whatever she wanted. She didn't reply, but looked extremely offended, and that really irked me. I asked her to get out of the house, and she did, muttering things under her breath at me in Hindi, a language I don't understand. That night, John came home and asked me why he'd been so mean to his sister and kicked her out of the house. I said I was sick and tired of them coming over, and from now on, they were not allowed in the house without letting us know beforehand. John said I was being a massive jerk to his family and disrespecting what they provide for us and his duty to provide for them. We haven't talked since, and he slept on the couch last night. I don't think I was in the wrong, but John is really upset, so am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but break up with him. This issue won't be resolved, and you have fundamentally different views on family boundaries. Better to walk away and find someone who isn't so enmeshed with their family. My girlfriend of 3 years is reluctant about having kids, and I definitely want at least 2. Right off the bat, I, 28 male, want kids, but even after 3 years of a relationship and 2 years living together, I'm not sure if my girlfriend, who's 27, wants kids, or if she really embraces this at all. I sometimes even get a feeling that she thinks it's expected of her to have kids. On the other hand, I'm looking forward to having a family in the next 5 years, and I'm struggling with the question of, am I wasting my time? I desperately need someone to talk to about this. The lack of a concrete answer from her part is stressing me out. I've always wanted kids. I like them, they like me, and I want to provide for and raise a little human being or two. I've always been the happiest around kids, of all ages, and I've somehow always known I was a family man. On the other hand, my girlfriend isn't entirely sure, and that's where this post stems from. We've talked several times about having kids, and every single time she gave the same answers. She likes kids, but wants to first make something out of her career. She thinks the kids will wreck her body. She would consider having kids in 5 years, when she's 32? And she isn't really into it, but everyone, her family and friends included, expect her to have kids, so she probably will. All the reasons sound completely fine, and I'm totally okay with everything, but the number of maybes, probablys, and likelies is what really throws me off. She always ends the discussion saying she'll likely have kids, but I have this awful gut feeling she's just saying that to reassure me, and I don't want to pressure her into it. It's her choice. It sounds to me like deep within her, she doesn't want to have any, yet she feels forced into having them because having kids is what most people do. I think that if I didn't want kids, she would gladly say, yeah, I'm fine not having them. The lack of enthusiasm about it is what's bothering me. And to make it clear, I don't want to have them now, but I am 28. Sometimes she gets a pregnancy scare. I always tell her it's fine and we'll figure it out, and that I, given our age, would actually consider keeping it under the right circumstances. On the other hand, she's absolutely terrified. Be honest, am I wasting my time, or is it way too early to be thinking about any of this? I'm this close to having a serious conversation with her about marriage and everything, and this is practically the only thing that's giving me second thoughts. Edit. I've read through most of the comments and messages, and the general consensus is that her maybe is actually a very close to a no. Exactly what I was afraid of. I will have another talk with her, preferably tonight, and pay very close attention to what she says. I'm going against the grain here, but only the last bullet point would make me question whether she genuinely wants to have kids. As for the other points, having kids is a scary experience as a woman. Your body is permanently changed. Kids are a lifelong commitment and expensive, so it's not absurd to want to be in a place where one can financially contribute to their upbringing and give their kids a good life. She's basically told you that she doesn't want kids. In a roundabout way forward, sure, but that comes from her knowing that this relationship will end if she tells you outright, and she doesn't want that. You can spend the next however many years together hoping she'll change her mind, but if she doesn't and finally gets around to being brutally honest with you, you both will have wasted those years together. She could change her mind, but you need to decide if this is something you're willing to chance. Do you really want a kid with someone who doesn't want to have them and is only having them to make you happy? What kind of mom is she going to be in that scenario?
Karen bosses me around at work, so I made her cry. Okay, title sounds bad, but hear me out. So for context, I, 26 female, have been working at a corporate job for about a year. It's great, it pays really well, and I get along with pretty much everyone there. However, there's this one manager at work. Let's call her Leanne. She's around 40 and female. And most of us don't get on with her at all, as she's always humiliating people by talking down to us. For example, my coworker has a lisp, and last week when she asked him how far along he was with a project, he said it would still take a little while. She basically blew up at him, but half of the time when she was screaming at him, she was putting on a fake lisp to mock him. She'll always have a pile of work on her desk for other people to do because she needs to leave work to collect her kids from school when the father doesn't show up to collect them when it's his turn. Another thing is, she always expects us to stay on later than expected and coming in earlier, but we don't get paid for this time. That's just a few examples, because if I listed all of the things she does, it would be over the word limit. So today, I get told that I'm being promoted to a much higher position within the company. I'm excited about it as it pays better and will give me a lot more responsibility. The thing is, this position basically will make Leanne my subordinate. So I was telling a few coworkers about the promotion. We were just standing in the break room, laughing and chatting when she came in. She started going off on us about not working, saying things like, "Oh, I get it. You guys must think you're on vacation just because it's a nice day out, do you?" At one point she said, "If you people don't get your butts back to the office right now, I'm going to report it to higher management." The more she talked, the angrier I got. And when she finally finished berating us, I stood silently for a second and then just said something like, "I'll consider this being you reporting it to your higher management, as that's currently my position in the company." One of my coworkers snorted, and Leanne looked furious. Then I just told her that me and my coworkers were okay to be in the break room, as it was literally our break time, that it was pretty rich to tell us we couldn't take a coffee break when she herself would leave work regularly to pick up her kids because her ex-husband couldn't be bothered. I said that she wasn't to speak to any of us like that anymore, or I'd have her written up within the minute. She stood there for a whole minute, it felt like, and then she started tearing up. Then she left without a word. I felt horrible because I humiliated her in front of people she's managing and I made her cry. My coworkers are saying that she had it coming, but one of them thinks I went too far, bringing her kids into it. So, am I the jerk? If you don't want to spend time having to defend your behavior to HR, you need to learn quickly that you can't dress a subordinate down in public. Just because she used to do it doesn't make it right. Where I am, people can claim workers' compensation because managers humiliate them by giving them negative feedback in front of a crowd instead of in private. If she went on stress leave where I am, a claim could get up because of your behavior. Everyone sucks here. Entitled dog mom screams at my daughter for petting her dog. So I work as a secretary/receptionist at a small veterinary practice. By small, I mean that there are 2 vets, 3 nurses, and me. 6 employees total. One of the vets founded the practice 30 years ago, and her son is one of the nurses. Because it's so small, we really are like a family, and often get together at each other's houses for drinks and stuff. Because of this, we're also all pretty well acquainted with each other's families. The 2 youngest of the group are my daughter, Elori, who's 7, and one of the nurses, who's 35, male, his son, who's 8. They go to the same school and often carpool if needed. This summer, my daughter had summer camp in the morning, but nothing in the afternoon. Since my boyfriend and I both work until 5, me and 4, him, my boss said it was absolutely fine for Elori to hang out around the office until my boyfriend could come get her after he got off work. Most of the time, Elori either plays games on her phone
watches YouTube, or does some arts and crafts in the back office. From where I sit at the front desk, I can see her and her me, but clients cannot see her. Occasionally, my boss will offer for Lori to come help her with a very sweet and gentle pet. She will usually hold the pet and grab tools that the vet leaves on the counter for her. Always just normal checkups. Lori was just exiting the exam room to give one cat back to her owner when this entitled mom walked in with her yapping dog pulling at a leash. She takes one look at Lori handing someone a pet and immediately gets angry. "Where's the vet?" I tell her that my boss is prepping for her next appointment and that she can sit down and wait. "Where are your parents? You should not be in a medical area." She directs this question at Lori. Lori points to me, which directs her back in my direction. "Where are her parents?" she asks me. "I'm her mom." "You're a teenager." "Actually, I'm 21. Not that it's any of your business." At this point, her dog is absolutely losing it. He's barking, pulling at his leash, lunging towards Lori. She immediately becomes scared, even though this dog is like a beagle. She loves dogs, but also knows exactly when to stay out of a dog's radius of reach. However, like I said, the office is small. This dog is between me and the desk and Lori. She can either try to go around the dog to get to me, which clearly the dog will be able to get to her, or head back into the exam room, a route which also put her in the dog's path. As I realize this, I stand up to go get her, and she chooses to attempt to come to me at the desk, putting her in the dog's path. Predictably, the dog comes at her and gets one nip before I can throw myself between them. Lori's sobbing. The owner is screaming that Lori had touched her dog, and one of the nurses, the one who's a dad, comes out to figure out what the heck is going on. Without even asking, he immediately and firmly escorts entitled mom outside to defuse the situation. I take Lori to the back office. Thankfully, she was fine. 10 or so minutes later, he comes back in without entitled mom. I ask him what happened, and he told me that entitled mom threatened to sue me for letting Lori touch her dog. He reminded her that any dog unable to sit quietly was required to be in a crate, and after some choice words, she left. He also tells me that he will be covering the end of my shift and that I should get Lori out of there and do what's best to calm her down. We got ice cream and watched Encanto. You can't perform Creep by Radiohead due to spirit of the song. Our institution of about 2,000 staff had yearly dinner and dance events. This was before lockdown, of course. This is an educational institution where most of us are either teachers or administrators. I am part of a small group of teachers and staff at this institution that formed our own staff rock band. We're usually given a 30-minute performance slot at previous dinner and dances, thus we were invited to perform again for the upcoming one. The theme for that year was superheroes. Our merry little band set out a full set list of songs, which included songs like Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler, the Shrek soundtrack version. We threw in Creep by Radiohead because we wanted a song to slow the pace down midway through our set. All of us in the band are music lovers covering multiple genres and also coming from many different faiths and religions. None of us even considered that Creep would be an inappropriate song on stage. So now let me introduce the antagonist of this story. I'll call him Ash. He was the main staff coordinator for the entire dinner and dance event, a role that was bestowed on up-and-coming staff who show potential for leadership positions. Ash and his committee were the ones who came up with the superhero theme and would oversee everything for the event, including our little 30-minute performance. Before this event, none of us in the staff band knew Ash well. He was a bit of a loner, and as we would soon discover, he also takes his religion and values very seriously. So seriously that he had no qualms claiming jurisdiction over the whole event with his values as constitution. We had given the event committee our song set list 2 months before the event, after which we began rehearsing in earnest. No committee member said anything in those 2 months about our songs they wanted removed. At our last rehearsal before the event, Ash decided to drop into our rehearsal. Midway through our set, as we began to play Creep, he suddenly raised his hand to object and said, "Stop, stop, stop. I'm removing this song from your set list. You can't play this song." We were stunned. This was 2 days before the show, and we had sunk in tens of hours of rehearsal by this point. "Why?" we asked. "I read the lyrics of this song. The spirit of this song is offensive. It has the wrong values for an educational institution such as ours. We protested. Some of our band members were very religious themselves, and they saw no problem with the song, but he would not budge an inch. You are not playing creep on stage. I'm going to escalate this to the deputy principal. The band members were fuming at this point, regardless of religion, but the band leader made the call. Okay, we can't play this song on stage, right? Then we won't. And just to be sure, this is a superhero-themed event, right? And your committee is encouraging all attendees to come dressed as superheroes? Am I correct? Yes, Ash replied, and especially so for the performers. So we are expecting your band to come dressed up as superheroes to fit our theme. Cue malicious compliance. The day of the dinner and dance comes around, and over 1,000 colleagues showed up. Some dressed in Superman t-shirts, some as Wonder Woman, and even one in full Deadpool costumes. But none of them grabbed as much attention as one very tall, very leggy, very conspicuous Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon had on the tight-fit sailor uniform, slim waist, skirt, and the wig. It was none other than the band leader, who, by the way, is a 40-year-old male. Ash was livid, but as Sailor Moon was grabbing so much attention with so many folks clamoring to have photos taken with her, Ash did not want to spoil his own party by telling her to change. At one point, even the deputy principal grabbed a photo with Sailor Moon. The 30-minute performance was decent. Mistakes here and there, but none of us were professional, and the crowd enjoyed it anyway. Sailor Moon, who was the bassist, was headbanging and swinging her wig wildly to the finale, holding out for a hero, ensuring that everyone had their eyes on her. Naturally, there would be a best dressed segment, and it was clear from the start that Sailor Moon was going to be nominated and then destroy the competition. But Sailor Moon did something none of us expected. As the MC for the event asked her why she chose to come as Sailor Moon, and the entire event hall was riveted on her, curious to hear her answer, she did not answer, but instead started to sing. But I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the heck am I doing here? I don't belong here. The crowd cheered and applauded, but no other table at the event was as overjoyed as the staff band table, who understood the deeper meaning behind what the band leader just did. It's been a few years since the event, and we aren't sure if Ash got that promotion he was seeking. He was such a loner that nobody really saw him much, thus nobody talked about him either. The band leader, on the other hand, became a legend. He was once at a meeting where the folks across from him said that he looked very familiar, like they had seen him somewhere before. Then somebody suddenly burst out, "You're Sailor Moon! You're that Sailor Moon!" They didn't even know his name. My Karen mother-in-law demands to visit us. I don't like my mother-in-law. When I first met her, it was to go to an important holiday dinner hosted by my husband's, then boyfriend's, extended family. She met us at the hotel and met me before I went, but then took my husband aside and said I needed to change clothes because what I was wearing was not appropriate. I cried. My husband said we weren't going anymore and told his mom to leave. We made up later. As my husband and I dated, I learned more about his relationship with her. They didn't talk often before me or since. He went to visit her one time alone. Fast forward, and he hasn't seen her for a while. For whatever reason, they never coordinated a time for her to visit, or we always had some excuse. Finally, she calls my husband and says she's coming this weekend to visit. It's Tuesday night. I immediately say no when my husband tells me. I tell him that my nephew will be in on Sunday morning and she would drive 16 hours one way. He hesitates but agrees and tells his mom it can't be this week, pick another time. His mom guilt trips him, says there's always some excuse and that I don't like her. She says she feels like if she doesn't see him right now, she may never get to see him again. So he decides to let her come with some conditions of not seeing the house and not seeing me. I respect his choice, but I'm still mad because regardless of their relationship and the repair they need, he still let her come out last minute and stay the 2 days before I have company for a week. I'm mad he didn't see that as impolite and selfish. We fought and he said, "She was right. I do have to choose. This sucks." Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I've never been a fan of people inviting themselves over to stay without asking first. It sounds like she thinks you're going to keep putting her off, and honestly, it sounds like you want to. Explain that you have a lot going on and give her some dates that will work for you for her to come visit. Not the jerk. Your husband is the jerk for not giving his mother a firm no. His compromise only makes you look bad and you and him look divided, which is probably what mother-in-law wants. Not the jerk. The umbilical cord is being stretched way too tight. By guilting him into letting her come over, it shows that she still has control over him. You need to be there with your husband when y'all talk with her again. Explain why this weekend won't be a good time for either parties. The husband needs to be on your side. He married you, not his mother. You're the jerk. Always with the stories about wives who have problems with mother-in-law. Of course, Reddit will cheer you on like they always do. But the karma is that one day you will be the mother-in-law who wants to maintain a relationship with your own son. Maybe you will want to visit or get to be involved in your grandkid's life. But then it will be your turn to deal with a narcissist daughter-in-law who wants nothing to do with you. She will post about it on Reddit and everyone will cheer her on. That's the good thing about horrible daughters-in-law. One day, they will be the mother-in-law that everyone wants to talk smack about. I stalked my husband for 2 years before I formally met him. I, 24 female, married my husband, 28 male, about a year and a half ago. The first time I saw my husband, I was a freshman in high school and he was a freshman in college. He was walking his dog at the park when he stopped to talk to my brother, who's 27, because they happened to go to high school together. That was the moment I became hooked. The same day I found his Instagram, his family's social media, and also where he lived, since my brother offered to walk him home while I tagged along. When I got home that day, I knew I wanted him, but of course, the age difference. So I came up with a plan. I found out his younger brother was only 1 year younger than me and would be attending my current high school. I figured that I had to befriend his younger brother by any means possible next year when he moves up as a freshman while I become a sophomore, and I did. It took around halfway of my junior year where we became best friends and he invited me over regularly to his house to hang out. This is where I was able to befriend my current husband's mom, and God, did she love to talk about him. From her, I found out what college he goes to, his past girlfriends, what schools he had gone to, his favorite and least favorite foods, his pet peeves, what he likes, etc. Eventually, when my visits started getting more and more frequent, I formally met current husband again. Current husband, I'll call him E, would come over every other week and stay for either Friday through Sunday or Saturday through Sunday. On those days, I specifically would wear my cutest outfits to impress him and also joke around with him a lot. Eventually, I befriended him as well. A little background on E. He is the school record holder for a certain sport at my school, which I just so happened to do. And around halfway through my senior year, E came back during the season to help coach the current high school athletes, which included me, in order to get some more volunteer work hours in, and I got to spend a lot more time with him. I loved every second of it. We were friends before, but then we became much closer since I got to spend lots of extra time with him after school, where sometimes he would even drive me home since we lived relatively close. Fast forward to when I had to move away to New York City for college. E moved in with me since he coincidentally got a job near my college. Edit. I lied. It wasn't a coincidence. I found out he got a job offer and applied to a college nearby his workplace. Being each other's only friends in a new state, we became incredibly close. We started dating when I was almost in sophomore year of college. He proposed to me after I graduated, and we just got married almost a year ago. He knows absolutely nothing about how I truly know him and believes it is fate that brought us together through his younger brother. Lately, I've been debating on whether or not I should tell him, or at least his younger brother, the truth, since the only reason I befriended him was to get closer to E. I feel guilty every time he tells others our love story, because the truth is, I've known him for 10 years, while he's only known me for about 7 years. Update. I read a reply saying the best thing for myself is to keep it a secret, which is what a lot of people are saying, but the best thing for him is to tell him, and I figured that person really is right. I will be telling him this Tuesday on his day off. He deserves to know who he married. Update. I told him the truth on July 4th. After the fireworks mostly ended and we were heading back, I asked him in the car, wouldn't it have been weird if we had met each other before the first time we actually met? But we just didn't think of each other as significant at the time? He smiled and turned to me and said, that's impossible. There's no universe where we would have met and I wouldn't think of you as significant. That statement struck me in the heart because I know I would soon prove that sentence very wrong. But I continued on with my plan anyway. What if I told you that we had met each other before? Before that time I was introduced as his little brother's friend. He looked at me like I was crazy, so that's when I pulled over on the side of the road and pulled out my phone to show him the post I put up here before that explained everything. He took about 8 minutes to read the whole thing, And when he finished, he put the phone down and stared straight ahead, almost like he was dumbfounded, scared, and confused all at the same time. I started throwing out every excuse and apology I could muster at the moment for about 15 minutes straight when he decided to tell me to stop, and I did. Then he just sat there and sobbed uncontrollably for about 10 minutes before he finally asked me how much of our relationship and how much of my identity was fabricated according to his liking. I told him the honest truth. None of my personality or identity was fabricated for him, except for the fact of how we met. The only thing I ever changed about myself to make him like me more was lying about liking Chinese food. I can't stand Chinese food. But other than that, everything else was real. Although my friendship with his younger brother was built upon ill intentions, my friendship between his brother and I is now one of the most genuine friendships I've ever known. He just cried and told me that he doesn't want to divorce at all, but he does want us to have some time apart so that he can absorb the truth that I gave to him. He also said that he expects me to tell his brother and mom this Friday because they deserve to know the truth just as much as he did. I told him okay, and we drove the rest of the ride home in silence. When we got home, he hugged me and cried for about 5 minutes before he got out of the car, packed his stuff, and said that he will be staying at a nearby hotel for now. He said that he knows that he still loves me, but he just doesn't know yet how to react to the fact that the beginning of our relationship was very, very orchestrated. To sum it all up, I guess telling him was a success. I honestly don't know. He sent me a good night and an I love you text last night while he was at the hotel, so I guess he feels more betrayed than mad. Update 2. Woke up this morning to find out that hubby not only lied about going to a hotel to stay at, but also lied about not wanting a divorce through a text message. He went to his family's home, not a hotel, told them the entire story himself, probably exaggerated it too to make me seem crazy. His whole family wants nothing to do with me too, claims I'm a psycho. He said that he lied about going to a hotel because he knew if he told me the truth, I would try to stop him. Honestly, I feel betrayed. I tried to be a good wife by showing him the true me, and this is what he does? I did all this work just for it to end up like this? Honestly, I kind of deserve it. I didn't even tell him in the first place because I felt bad. I told him because I had a suspicion that he was catching on to the fact that I knew him for 2.5 years before he knew me, largely because I found out he was keeping my old phone in his work desk. My old phone that has screenshots of a lot of his old Instagram posts, plans in my notes app about him, etc. So I guess he never truly loved me, and if he can't get past an honest confession like this one, I might update this in a few years when I find a new husband.
Still a better love story than Twilight.
Oh, come on. I can't be the only one who thought what she did was kind of sweet. Oh, maybe?
No, Reddit boy. You're just really weird.
Last year, my boyfriend, who's 33, male, quit his job without telling me, and now he refuses to look for another job. My boyfriend, 33, male, quit his job last year without telling me. I only found out 2 days before the rent was due. We split everything 50-50 when I asked him for his part of the rent. When I asked, he simply told me he quit because he was tired of working at that place. Since then, I've been paying for everything, including rent, food, gas, bills, and anything he needs. I had to work 2 jobs while going to school for a while. It was hard, but I finally finished school a couple of months ago and I found my dream job. I make enough to live comfortably, even take care of my boyfriend and still have money for saving. However, I still want him to get a job to support himself because I think, as an adult, he needs to have a job. But I feel like he relies on me way too much and he thinks since my job pays well, he doesn't have any reason to work. He always says things like, "You make good money now, so maybe you could buy me my dream car." Or, "You should open a business for me to run." Yeah. I don't mind supporting my partner financially if there's a legit reason that prevents him from working, but that's not the case. He spends most of his time playing games, meeting up with friends, or just at home watching movies. I still have to do all of the chores and take care of our dogs. His family thinks that he's been working to take care of me so that I can finish school, which is not true. Now they think I was able to finish school and get a good job all because of him. I don't even want to explain it to them. I just want him to get a job and have a future. When I try to talk to him, he tells me that I'm not supportive, and now that I have a good job, I look down on him. What should I do? Is it even worth it to try to talk some sense into him? I don't want to start dating at this age, but I feel like I just can't keep doing this. Edit. Many people have asked, why him? Why did I stay for years? What did I see in him? So I just want to answer that. We started off pretty normal. We split everything 50-50, and I had no problem with that. But throughout the years, he started showing his true self. I was in school, and school was the most important thing to me at that point, so I invested all of my time and energy into it. I was in the PhD program, so I had stipend, which was around $30,000 a year, which was enough for myself, but not for two people. After he quit his job, I was very stressed out, but I had to focus on school and tried to do everything I could to survive. I didn't have time to really think about my personal life, and I also didn't want to go through any changes in life, so I just let it be. In addition, he guilt trips me a lot, so I felt bad for him. But now that I have a stable job, I have time to really think about my future. I don't see myself being with him long term. I don't think it would be as easy as, hey, let's break up, because I know he wouldn't let it go that easy. But I'll start planning to get out, maybe ask some friends for support. His name is not on the lease, so I'll stay where I am and he'll have to move. Would I be the jerk if I go on vacation instead of my brother's wedding? My brother, Tom, 36 male, and I, 26 female, have never had a really solid relationship. Due to our age gap, we didn't spend much time together, and by the time I was old enough to develop a personality, he was moved out of the house. For the last 2 years, my brother and his fiancée Sarah, who's 32, have been planning their wedding, and it's coming up in September. I was asked to be a bridesmaid. I figured I was only asked as a courtesy since I'm her soon-to-be sister-in-law, but I still took it seriously. I've been a bridesmaid for the last 2 years. Just a few weeks ago, I managed to save up to buy the $800 bridesmaid's dress. Overall, in the last 2 years, between group outings to parties, dinners, lunches, clothes, etc., I spent thousands of dollars. Eventually, all the girls in the wedding and I became extremely close, and I started to get hyped for the wedding. Sarah recently got close with her brother's wife, Becky, who's 30. Last week, she dropped the ball on me that she no longer wants me to be a bridesmaid, and she would prefer if Becky would take my place. It broke my heart a little, but it's her wedding, and it's not my place to tell her how to run it, so I said it was fine. Yesterday, I went to my brother's house to pick up my bridesmaid's dress and was going to see if I could return it since it was within the time frame. Sarah was completely appalled and said that Becky was going to wear it since she and I are about the same size. I said that would be fine, but they would have to give me the $800 for it. Sarah said that Becky can't afford it and I should just be nice and let her use it, and said that I could keep it after the wedding. I explained that I'm not just giving away the dress and I'm not ever going to use it after the wedding. After some bickering back and forth, I just ended up taking it and leaving. My brother and Sarah tried to compromise with me and say I could be the assistant flower girl, and I felt offended at their offer. After I said no, they then said that Becky could give me $250 for it. Again, no, and I returned the dress and got a full refund. I told them I understand that it's their wedding, but they're being extremely disrespectful to me, and I don't need to deal with it, and I'm not going to the wedding. Today, my coworker says she has an extra round-trip plane ticket to go to Miami that she'll sell to me for half price. Plus, I would have to pay for half the hotel, and I can go hang out with her in Florida. The only downside is that I'll be in Florida for the week of my brother's wedding. So, will I be the jerk if I just go to a party in Miami instead of going to my brother's wedding? Why can't they add another bridesmaid? The reason they wouldn't just add other bridesmaids is because there isn't enough room at the table. Forget them, they did you dirty. That's what I was thinking. I would also lose out on the $800 dress, and if I was going to be the assistant flower girl, I would have to buy another dress. This whole ordeal has stressed me out. Maybe I need to relax in Miami. What are others saying? My mom has been calling me Switzerland. She supports me with whatever I plan to do. My brother has been on his bride's side and says that I'm being childish. My coworker is currently trying to convince me to keep my mouth shut about my trip and then start posting photos of it on social media an hour before the wedding. Update. So unfortunately, since Reddit is awful at keeping secrets, Becky saw the post on TikTok, so she obviously let the cat out of the bag. My whole family is split on what I should do, but after a heated argument, it was mutually agreed that I will not be attending the wedding. My brother and future sister-in-law cannot seem to comprehend that this is not about the dress, but how they treated me. For those wondering what our parents have to say, our mother says, if you're gonna be a jerk, don't be upset when someone's a jerk back. My brother and future sister-in-law think I'm the jerk. But by the way, my mom paid for the hotel for my trip. I think it's safe to assume whose side she's on. I appreciate all the love and support I got. I will have an amazing time in Miami, and I won't feel the slightest bit guilty thanks to the overwhelmingly positive responses I got on here. Department manager wants me to stay late to finish all duties. Sure. This happened a couple of years ago in December of 2019. I got a job at a higher-end grocery store in the area, as I was planning on saving for when I started college in the fall of 2020. The store has all kinds of different departments, like a market cafe, pizza and sub shop, cheese, etc. I aced my interview and was hired in the bakery department specifically for breads only. That'll be important later. The first 4 months was a breeze, but after lockdown ramped up, my doctor put me on leave until August. When I returned, a lot of people had quit in the bakery. I was taking college classes now, so I was working night shift part-time from 5 to 9. My department manager, Hannah, informed me that they were short-staffed on nights and I might be on my own 1 day a week. I was sure I would be getting help for the rest of the nights. Nope. Weeks go by and I barely got help. I'm burning myself out doing closing shift on my own, along with my schoolwork. No one was in the dessert or breakfast section, and I can't talk to anyone about it because they're gone by the time I clock in. I complained to the bread manager, Jim, and he told me to talk to Hannah since she runs the whole department. Sure, fine. This is how the conversation went with Hannah. Me. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about the workload. A lot of the day shift people leave their mess and can't clean up after themselves. I have to do that and my duties, which isn't fair. Are you hiring anybody for nights? I can't keep running around and using my inhaler so much too. Hannah. Oh yeah, we're having a hard time filling the night shift roles. We could always train you for desserts and breakfast. Me. That's not what I meant. I meant assistance, not more responsibility. I can't do everything in the bakery and close with only 4 hours. Hannah. Well, you can figure something out. Just make sure you don't leave a mess during closing though. You can't leave until everything's done. I can't leave until everything's done? Okay. Ever since she said that, I started documenting every time I had to do 3 jobs at once. I would take my sweet time when I didn't have a class the next day, making sure I clocked out at 11 p.m. each time. The amount of stuff that kept piling on was ridiculous, but I was following her instructions. HR noticed my clock in and out times and wanted me to come by their office. I told them everything, including what Hannah had said to me, along with the photos I took. Suddenly, everything changed. At 9 sharp, they were kicking me out, and whatever was left for the morning. Hannah was reprimanded, but wasn't fired until she was caught selling 2-year-old expired pumpkin pies to customers during Thanksgiving. That day sure was a doozy. I was shocked when I saw all those empty boxes she already sold. Edit. I was working morning shift and saw many of the habits they had when I was first hired, but it didn't affect me until I was working night shift alone. I had no idea how bad it was until I experienced it. During mornings, I always made sure to clean up after myself, even the bread slicer, which can have caked-on mess by the afternoon. For those curious about the pumpkin pie incident, we were all working overtime and preparing for Thanksgiving. I heard from this older lady that works day shift that she was cleaning out the freezer and found 2-year-old pumpkin pies from a vendor we package and sell. She was asking Hannah what to do with them because there were a lot of them. I forgot how many were in a box. Hannah said, "Just put a label on them and place them on display. We can get more profit that way." Excuse me, what? The older woman said she was shocked and used her PTO to leave early. She was scared of jeopardizing her job, but she told me it was weighing on her conscience and told the store manager. I truly forgot the woman's name, but she was extremely nice to me. There were about 7 large boxes full of mini and large pumpkin pies. Hannah was promptly fired. Sweet karma. Am I the jerk for leaving a family gathering due to my parents always over-complimenting my brother? My brother has had a lot of time for hobbies in recent years. Something he spent a lot of time on is cooking. Now he's a really good cook. He and his husband have a decent-sized house, so a lot of our routine family dinners are held at their place, and my brother volunteers to cook most of the time. When he does, without fail, as soon as our parents come through the door, or we do, it's always, "Smells really good in here, doesn't it? Darn, you are making me hungry from the street," or things along those lines, and they keep saying such things throughout our time there. At first, I didn't think one way or another about it, but we're going on well over 2 years of this happening. They never give compliments if I or our other siblings have them over. They didn't say anything about the murals my brother and his wife painted on their walls, very big and hard to miss, until they pointed right at them and asked about it, and all our parents said was, "Oh, that's nice." Our sister is always making bath bombs and candles for her home business, so her place always smells nice too, and they don't say anything about that or encourage her. They just don't give any compliments or acknowledge anything about us, our hobbies, or our homes, but they go overboard with our brother. It's not like they neglected him as a kid and it's some attempt to make up for it. They gave us all pretty equal attention and support growing up. The last time we were having dinner at my brother's house, I was telling my family about how I was excited for my fiancé to be starting his dream job. My siblings were happy for him, but our parents didn't say anything and went right back to singing their praises of the second coming of culinary Jesus and how he should start a food truck. I was pretty done at that, and instead of being there in an irritated mood, I waited a few minutes and acted like I had gotten a text from a friend and had to go. said my byes and love yous and left. A little while later, my mom called and asked what was wrong because my family had noticed my phone screen was dark when I pulled it out, so they didn't buy the text story. I told her I just didn't have it in me to sit through another dinner where they forgot they have 3 other kids with things going on in their lives they'd like some acknowledgement from them over. I've been at odds a bit with my parents and them telling me I'm being immature. My siblings found out why we're currently fighting, and our brother and his wife are in agreement with me and said they've been getting tired of it too. I've apologized to my brother, but not my parents. So, am I the jerk? Edit. We bring dishes or someone else cooks when we have dinner at his house and he doesn't want to cook. We also have meals at our houses and there isn't a peep from our parents. On one hand, yes, he is a better cook and he should get at least a, hey, this is good. But when they're taking home half of sister-in-law's pie when they eat there, she doesn't get anything but a thanks. They use a lot of the products my sister makes, free of charge, and also don't say anything besides thanks, and will stay hands-off helping her promote, but they were quick to jump in and tell our brother to go open a food truck and ideas to go about it. Not the jerk. It doesn't sound like you lashed out. You just exited a situation you'd seen before and that you knew would be unpleasant and unfair. You drew some boundaries. Maybe it was clunkily executed and now it's brought the whole thing to light, but ultimately that's probably for the best. Maybe it'll open their eyes. No tip on a $300 bill. Reason? Because they're a non-profit. I'm sitting here on my break and I just want to know if this is actually a thing because I'm kind of salty. I work at a small poke bowl / sushi place that's similar to Chipotle and that it's a prep and go. Dine in is optional. The bowls do take quite a bit of time though since customers build their own. Same thing if they want sushi rolls. Anyway, it's 12:30ish and this group of around 20 comes in. I'm thinking, wow, since it's our usual lunch rush, plus this massive group, and it was a little overwhelming to say the least. This lady says she's going to pay me for her whole group, and it takes maybe 30 minutes to get through everyone. While ringing her up, I ask what the group is about, and she says it's some sort of summer camp. The total came out to just over $300, and when I flip to the tip screen, she just looks at me and goes, "Sorry, I'm not allowed to tip since we're a non-profit organization. You guys did a great job though." It was a little disappointing to run around taking and making orders for everyone just to be told they couldn't tip because they were a non-profit. They even said they'd probably be coming back for the duration of their camp, which I'm not looking forward to if it's going to be all this stress and no reward. So tell me, is this some kind of rule for company budgeting? Am I the jerk or are they? Edit. To clarify, this is not a typical dine-in restaurant, and I included this earlier because I know there's a difference when it comes to expecting tips. I don't have an issue with regular customers not tipping, although it is appreciated and I try to make conversation and make sure that they're taken care of to earn it. I'm annoyed that a company-funded party of 20 came in, assuming this is a larger nonprofit with money, and left nothing. I was also wondering if my annoyance was justified or if she was telling the truth about not being allowed to. To be honest though, I would have been happy with $10. Also, I'm a girl, since some of the people in the comments think I'm a guy. I work for a nonprofit. We are allowed to tip. I've done a fair share of delivery work. It's pretty normal for people in some kind of secretarial position to claim that they don't have authority to provide a tip. I tend to view this as a BS excuse, of course. They're clearly allowed to pay for the incurred expense, and the tip should be viewed as part of the expense. I'm sure there are genuinely some bosses and higher-ups that will notice and kick up a fuss that a signer included a basic tip, but it happens far too commonly for that to be the majority case in my opinion. I do notice that a lot of people who are in positions that are generally viewed as socially good or altruistic, whether that's charity work, nurses, teachers, etc., are very bad tippers or they don't tip at all. And there's a lot of entitlement and a sense that they don't have to because everyone knows they're good people already. I haven't done much serving work, but I'm reminded of how many server friends I've known that don't like serving church groups for that same reason. And my main job now is teaching, and I definitely notice a big self-righteous and smug note in a sizable number of coworkers. Of course, usually whenever I bring this up on Reddit, I get downvoted because, how dare you badmouth these people, they're our heroes, etc. I used to work with city government. We couldn't get reimbursed for more than 10% tip. That was 15 years ago. It probably hasn't changed. I work for a nonprofit now. We can tip, just within reason, but I suppose her specific organization could set up rules for that sort of purchase. When I was a server many moons ago, I had the exact same situation. I saw the absence of gratuity when cleaning the table and found the host on our way out. She stated the exact same thing as did your guests. My reply in front of the group was, "You may be nonprofit, but I'm certainly not. Do you not pay your employees who provide a service to you?" She turned as red as the lobster her friend ate, and I managed $20 out of the cheap jerk. Not nearly an appropriate gratuity, but the satisfaction was priceless. Am I the jerk for telling my retired military father what I said? I'm 32, male, and my family is what I would consider generational military. We have ancestors that fought in World War I and beyond. I grew up being moved from place to place, going long stretches without seeing my father, and I hated it. Anytime I'd say I missed my dad or I wished I could see him more, I was quickly told to be quiet and be proud of my dad for being a hero. I once was upset we had to move because I was finally making friends and was told to not be selfish. I'm one of 4 kids. My brother and sisters all enlisted at 18. I chose not to, and while I'm not the only person in my extended family to do so, I knew it was disappointing. Originally, I chose not to enlist just because I didn't want to be in the military. However, over time, after learning more about it, I find the concept just wrong. I've never told my family this. I went to college, got my dream job, and eventually married my wife. We have 2 beautiful daughters. Because of our own upbringing, I do my best to be at every recital, school concert, soccer game, etc. I help my eldest with her homework, have special days with each of them separately, and then as family. Recently, I had the opportunity for a promotion that would require traveling 2 weeks out of the month. My wife and I briefly considered it before deciding that it just wasn't worth it in the long run. We do good financially, and the extra money wouldn't be worth her raising our kids alone half the month and me missing out on so much. The promotion came up during a family party. My father is now retired and he was there. When he heard me mention it, he asked why I would want to pass it up. I said I don't want to miss out on my girls' childhoods and have them feel like I abandoned them. My dad's chest puffed out and he said I was attacking him. I was confused and he said I had never been quiet about being unhappy as a military kid. He went on a rant about him not being an absent dad. I was an ungrateful brat, not patriotic, telling me to move to Canada if I didn't like it here. I said I don't want to do that. I just hated growing up without a physically present father. He said he was fighting for our country. I said that was a choice, and I'm allowed to not agree with it. My wife, kids, and I left shortly after. My wife agrees with my point, but said I was a jerk for wording my reasons for not taking the promotion like I did. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your dad's insecure, childish response says it all. Not the jerk. Any decent dad would have said, I know me being gone so much caused you a lot of pain and it makes me sad. I made the best decision I could about my career and my responsibility, but I am aware that it had some major drawbacks. I'm glad you get to be a father who gets to be around for your kids since it's important to you. Not the jerk. I'm sorry your childhood was sacrificed for his false beliefs. I can see why your dad believes what he does if he's generational military. He was spoon-fed the patriotism stuff from birth. But don't make that your problem. You do you and raise your family the way you like. Good for you. Karen Squatter moves into my house while I'm gone. Now she's in jail. Santa Monica, California. I'm the owner of a 2-story house. I'd gone to Hawaii last week for a 1-week vacation with my wife. No one was at home, and it wasn't feasible for us to take 2 dogs with us, so I gave my house keys to a good friend of mine, and I asked him to take care of my 2 dogs. This would involve feeding them, changing water, and taking them out to walk 1 hour a day. So his girlfriend was in town, and she had no place to stay. He lives in a 1-bedroom condo with 2 other roommates. So he messaged me and asked if I would allow his girlfriend to stay at my home for just 1 night. I agreed as it was just a matter of 1 night. Now, yesterday I came back and found out his girlfriend had made dwelling in my upper floor of my house. She's been staying here for 4 days. I asked her to leave immediately, but she and my friend are insisting to let her stay 1 more week because she's in search of a job in LA. I called the police. They came and said this would be a civil matter and I have to go through the eviction process. So I'm here with an unwanted stranger in my upper floor, a jerk friend who broke promises, and my upset wife. What to do, guys? Can I change locks and throw her stuff out when she's away? Cut the electricity to the upper floor? Update. So after reading all of the advice here and carefully discussing it with my cousin, we made a nasty plan. Yesterday night, that squatter girl went outside to grab some dinner with her boyfriend. Me and my cousin carefully packed all of her stuff into 3 bags, and we left it on the front porch and locked ourselves in the house. We also looked over her stuff from the window to make sure that no one stole it. Our wait was over after 2 hours when she returned. She figured it out and started pounding on our door, yelling loudly to open it. You know, typical squatter drama. We told her to buzz off and that we wouldn't open the door. So finally, after 30 minutes of constant drama, she dared to call the cops. I was nervous how it would turn out. The cops arrived, and fortunately, these were different ones than the previous night. First, they listened to her side, then they came to me. I explicitly told them that I was the sole owner of this house and I never allowed her to stay more than one night. She was not only trespassing, but also living in my house illegally without my permission. She kept saying I'd given her permission to stay there indefinitely and now I'm kicking her out. Officer asked if she had any proof of that. She claimed she had some text message which she had accidentally deleted. Now to the best part. Officer then asked her for an ID. She gave it. Officer verified it over the radio. Suddenly, they told him that this jerk had a failure to appear warrant for months-old shoplifting cases. Stupid lady was arrested immediately. All her stuff was sent to a friend's house. Officer said that I don't need to worry and they'll take care of her. I do not require any further action. So finally, I'm relieved from that squatter and she's behind bars. Pure justice. I always thought evictions were used to handle unwanted guests that were living somewhere for 2 weeks to 30 days plus. Too bad the cops didn't stick her with a trespassing charge as well as the old shoplifting charge. How often do cops call something a civil matter just because they don't want to do paperwork? I swear, that's what every single one of these civil matter situations feels like. The one thing I've learned about these tenancy laws and squatters is just take their crap and throw it outside, call a locksmith, and put in security cameras. They want to call the police, okay, go for it. She doesn't live here, she has no proof of tenancy, and she's currently trespassing. Please get her off my property now. Done. If you call when they are in, they will always take the con artist's side, which they know, which is why they do it. Also, forget that friend, like he didn't know what his girlfriend was going to do. Forget them both. Am I wrong for expecting people to pay my kid? My kid, who's 9, has recently gotten into baking. She's really passionate about it, and it has sparked most of our family members to stimulate said passion by requesting her to bake small items they happen to be craving right as they're coming over or have invited us over. They're always very small things like, oh, I'd sure love some brownies, or similar. But since people are asking and complimenting her genuinely makes her heart smile, I only support it, and I don't mind paying for the ingredients. Now, one of my family members is hosting a gathering and asked my daughter to bake 75 cupcakes. They said they would take her shopping for the ingredients. She asked me if she could, and I said sure. I supervise the oven-related steps and have to be present. Afterwards, I contacted said family member to get some specifics as to allergies and other nonsense, and brought up the fact that she was so excited to have her very first paying customer. Said family member was apparently appalled at the expectation of paying my kid for hours of labor, and stated that since she is a kid and doesn't have a genuine business yet, she shouldn't expect payment because taxes. I replied that if she feels that strong, she should have ordered from a genuine business because there's no way in any universe I'm going to let someone exploit her like that. She got mad and hung up on me. Now some additional info. I didn't expect a full hourly wage, just something extra to thank her for her hard work. She's been putting every cent she gets in allowance or earns towards more baking supplies. I expect she would have done the same with this money, but that's entirely up to her. If said family members decide not to pay, I'm still going to let her make the big order, pay her in full, and take the food down to a local food bank so she still gets the money and the experience. As fellow parents, how would you have approached this situation? I feel like I potentially robbed her of an experience she would have enjoyed out of personal principle. Edit. This is not a close family member. She's the kind of relative you only see at funerals or weddings. All the money that my kids earn goes to them 100%. Yes, I do pay them for the chores they do. No, I'm not trying to turn my daughter's hobby into a business. I'm only supporting and teaching her wherever she takes it. I do not feel any kind of strong emotion towards said relative. I don't dislike her at all, and we aren't American. Does your kid enjoy being with this relative? Sounds like it could have been just a fun afternoon activity with someone special, while you're turning this person into a paying customer. I'd be insulted if I offered to my niece or granddaughter, whoever, that I bring them shopping for ingredients so we could do cupcakes together, and then I somehow turn into a paying customer. As for the exact count of 75, anytime I'm cooking with kids, I do so with the full understanding that I'll end up doing 92% of the work anyway. OP. She sees this person twice a year and has no relationship with her. 2. She promoted herself to customer, as according to my daughter, she said, "How would you like your very first customer?" 3. She would be baking them from home and I would be driving them to the event. The relative would not be involved. Even if she were to be, the only thing she needs help with is putting things in or taking them out of the oven. So she does 99% of the work herself. Did your kid expect to get paid? Yes, she did. The relative said, according to my daughter, "How would you like your very first customer?" My daughter isn't an idiot. Customers pay for services and goods. When she asked me if she was allowed to do that, she even offered to share the profits with me for supervising her, which I obviously declined. Sounds like you may have made a fun and pleasant experience a stressful one. As of now, she's still unaware of this. I'm going to resolve this. Either she bakes for the relative and gets paid by her, or she bakes for the food bank and gets paid by me. Update. I have sat my daughter down and explained to her that the relative did not intend on paying her, that she was welcome to do the work for free if she so desired, but that she also was allowed to decline her request. We proceeded to have an entire discussion about the differences about doing someone a favor, like a pan of brownies, and labor, like catering an event. I emphasized it was her decision and she would have my help and support whichever way she went. She ended up asking if it were possible for her to attend the event instead of receiving payment so she could see the people eat her cupcakes and brag about making them, which the relative declined because it was a child-free event and she could not make exceptions. We both found this fair enough and she requested a set of baking pans in sizes she doesn't have yet as payment, which the relative also declined because why should she give her gifts while it was the relative's time to be celebrated? She went on to say that my kid was ruining the party by refusing to do dessert because she counted on it. My daughter was starting to feel guilty and I stepped in, gave her a list of local bakeries and at-home bakers she could contact and wished her a fantastic day, reassured my kid, and we went to go shopping for the baking tins ourselves. About 2 hours later, the relative, undoubtedly having contacted bakers and bakeries, called and offered my daughter a gift card for a local shop that sells all kinds of cooking and baking supplies. She happily accepted, and we thought that was that. The relative really stepped her game up in making up for the nonsense, and she arranged for my kid and myself to supervise to be allowed in the venue's kitchen and make the cupcakes there, as the venue owners, who also cater the venue, thought this would be a good idea. I've ordered her very first apron, and she is beyond excited to experience a commercial kitchen, and watching her heart smile makes my mom heart happy. I spent the day with my sister's best friend, and now she's telling my parents that I'm a homewrecker. So this all started yesterday when I, 22 female, had a date planned with a guy. He ended up not showing, and so naturally I texted the group chat about it. My sister is in this particular group chat. I'm guessing my sister, Sarah, who's 26, told her best friend, Jay, who's 27, about it, because a few minutes later, Jay texted me to ask if I'm okay. I told him yes, just a little disappointed since I was pretty excited to try that particular restaurant. He said that he would pick me up at noon the next day so we could go eat there. I told him it wasn't necessary, but he insisted, so I agreed, thinking nothing of it. Well, today he took me out as promised, and while we were eating, Sarah FaceTimed Jay. When he didn't answer, she called again, and again. He answered the fourth call and asked her what was going on. She said that she was just checking up on us and told me to call her later. Later ended up being almost 8. Jay and I ended up spending the rest of the day together, hunting down some collectible dolls we both like and trying different dessert spots along the way. On the way back to my apartment, Jay asked me to change the music on his phone. When I opened it, I saw that my sister had called him about 30 times throughout the day and texted him across multiple different apps. Jay put his phone on Do Not Disturb after lunch, so it made sense why he didn't see the notifications. Once he dropped me off, I called my sister and asked her if everything was all right. She said yes and asked if I had forgotten to call her back sooner. I told her that I was out with Jay, so I didn't get the chance and figured it could wait since she didn't call me. She hung up, and a few minutes later I got a call from my mom. She sounded angry and told me that I should be ashamed of myself. I said sure, but why today? According to my mom, Sarah called her in tears, saying that she had caught Jay and I hooking up at their apartment. I was so confused. I told my mom that I did not, in fact, do this, and that I didn't even know they lived together. I asked her to give me a minute, and I called Jay, but he didn't answer. So now I'm here laying on my floor, wondering what's going on and putting off another conversation with my mom. Update. I wanted to clear up some confusion. On my original post, when my mom told me that Sarah and Jay shared an apartment, I said I didn't even know they lived together. Those were my verbatim words to her, because last I knew, Sarah had a roommate and Jay lived alone. I was right, that's still the case. I wasn't clear about that. I'm bad at expressing myself sometimes. Another thing was people were wondering how Jay found out about my date, or lack thereof. And according to him, he was hanging out with a few of his friends, including my sister, and she told him about it in a joking way. Another thing is that some people are asking why I went out with Jay if I knew my sister liked him. I didn't know. Just because I talked to my sister doesn't mean she talks to me the same way. If I had known, I would have talked to her about it first, because I know from past experience that my sister is a jealous person. Anyway, last night was a doozy. Jay called me back. He said he was going to stay at a friend's because he would feel safer with company. I asked him if there had ever been anything romantic between him and my sister. He said the only thing was that he kissed her at a New Year's party at midnight because she was feeling left out. Obviously, I can't confirm if that really is the only thing. He also said that he had never even talked about moving in with Sarah, so he doesn't know why she would say they were living together. After I spoke with Jay, I called my mom again. She still sounded upset, but this time I could hear my sister crying in the background and my dad yelling for us to get over there. Our being Jay and I, presumably. Well, as I told my mother earlier, I don't like to drive at night, so I told them I would go the next morning. That also gave me the time to gather any evidence I could to prove my innocence. Jay even sent me a copy of his lease to prove that he and Sarah do not live together. I went to my parents alone because Jay has a job. As soon as I arrived, my parents started yelling at me. Just the usual stuff, that I was disrespectful, but they never expected this from me. How dare you do this to your own sister? You know she already has a hard time. Why make her life harder? My dad even called me names. That was fun. I kind of just sat there and did the math on how much faster I would be able to finish my grad program and flee the country, or at least the state. I wasn't very tuned in until my mom told me that if Sarah lost her job because of me, that I would need to financially support her until she found another one. That's when I snapped and told them that if they thought I was going to do that, then they were as delusional as my sister. Missing one day of work because of a tantrum over something that didn't even happen was not going to get her fired. My dad said that Sarah had been missing work to make sure that Jay wasn't leaving work early to go see me. I found out. My sister also told them that Jay was missing a lot of work, so he wasn't taking enough home for their bills, so they had been sending her rent money for months. I told them it wasn't true, and I showed them the lease Jay sent, where it clearly says the day the lease started and when it ends. It also has his address, which is not the same as Sarah's. My mom brought Sarah out of her room, where she had apparently been this entire time, and told her to explain herself. Sarah said that he probably got that other apartment so that he could be closer to me when he went on supposed business trips. First of all, Jay is a software developer. I don't know what business trips he would go on. Second, nice way to find out that my sister doesn't even know where I live, because Jay's apartment is almost an hour away from mine. I showed my parents that on Google Maps, and they finally started to believe me. Sarah started crying and calling me a liar. My dad told me that even if what I said was true, I shouldn't have been so hard on Sarah, and that as her sister, I should be helping her when she's having a rough time like this. I told him I wasn't a therapist, but if she ever decided to get help, I would pitch in. I left after that. There was nothing else I needed to say, and there was no point in waiting on an apology. My dad looked uncomfortable, and my mom was too busy consoling my sister to notice me leaving. I haven't talked to them after that. Sorry if you were expecting a fun update where I somehow got revenge on my sister or something crazy and petty. If you have questions, I'll answer them. Thanks for caring, though. Am I the jerk for not taking in my in-laws and not helping them with medical bills? I, 24 male, do pretty well for myself, have my own place, a stable and boring job that doesn't require much of my attention, and pays well while I work from home. Have plenty of hobbies, buy nice clothes. Just in general, I have a pretty comfortable life. My fiancé, who's 26, moved in when we got engaged about 2 years ago. Important context is that everything is in my name, and she doesn't pay rent, only bills specific to her, like buying the things she likes to eat with her own money, and helps with some of the utility bills. About 10 months back, my father-in-law, who's 56, was diagnosed with a pretty curable case of lung cancer, since he had an early-ish diagnosis. But my in-laws don't have the best financial condition, and these months of medical bills and other expenses might see them homeless and father-in-law without money to stay on his treatment. My in-laws have always treated me horribly, and were always openly against my relationship to their daughter, to the point where they'd explicitly tell her not to bring me to family gatherings and to invite her ex. Things of this nature. And yes, she had my back and stopped attending said family gatherings, but she still loves her family and they mean a lot to her. So she asked if we could take them in and help her father with his treatment, to which I said no without thinking twice. She asked if I can't think on it for a few days, and I replied, if I think on it for a few days, I'll only be more sure of my already obvious conclusion. They're not setting foot in here, and I don't care what happens to either of them. She replied, saying something along the lines of us having the income to spare, and that is true, but around 70% of it is my income, not hers, and space, also true, and asked me if my hobbies and spending money on myself. That kinda got me annoyed since I spend a lot of money on us, not just me. Although, yeah, I have a few hobbies I spend on, was really more important than her family, to which I simply said, yeah, it is. Now, my fiancé didn't blow up at me or anything. She's not one for conflict, but she called me a jerk and has been staying the last couple of days over at her parents'. Still calls me before bed every night, but is still clearly upset with me. Very upset. Am I the jerk? Edit. Since a lot of people asked, and some pointed out it could be important info, I come from a Japanese family, and her family, and her ex are all African American. Also, another frequent question is if I know why they dislike me. I don't. They won't say anything to my face, but they've disliked me from day one, and I know that they argued with my fiancé because of me several times, especially in the earlier years. Not the jerk. Have you suggested that she contact her ex to help them out? I'd end it on this hill if I were you. Stay strong, brother. Not the jerk. They don't like you, didn't want you around them or in their home, but now that they're struggling, they've decided they now want your home and your money? If your fiancé is so worried, she can use her own money to help her parents. People here are saying you should help them so you can heal the relationship, etc. No, they didn't want a relationship and they were awful to you. It's not up to you now to use your home and money to heal anything. They had opportunity over the years to do this, but only want to do it now that they need you. Don't help toxic people. Am I the jerk for losing my passport to avoid babysitting on my vacation? I, 17 female, still live at home. My sister, who's 28, is married and has 2 kids who are 5 and 3. Whenever she comes over to visit, my parents and her stick me with the kids. This wouldn't be a problem, except she doesn't visit for an evening. She'll come for a week, and for that week, I'm an unpaid nanny. If we go out to a restaurant, I have to entertain them because my mom needs to talk to my sister and brother-in-law. You get the picture. My parents decided that since this was my last summer before I become an adult, we would be going to Disneyland to celebrate my graduation. I asked who was going, and they said it was just the 3 of us. But when we got to the airport, my sister and her family were there. Strangely enough, they also were going to Disneyland. I went into my backpack and grabbed my passport. I put it in my sock. When we got to the international security, I couldn't find it. We looked everywhere. I had to Uber home and I missed my flight. Oh well, I get to stay home by myself for a week of peace and quiet. My parents were very mad at me for losing my passport. The money they spent on my flight and entrance was wasted. Darn. My mom and sister have both been posting about how hard it is to be at Disneyland with 2 little ones. They both posted that I ruined the vacation by being so thoughtless. My dad says he knows why I did it and he understands, but he says I should have let them know so he didn't waste money. He said he would have gone along with my ruse. I feel bad about wasting money, but I've been to Disneyland before, and I will go again later by myself or with friends. Not the jerk, but if they posted on social media, say, wait, I ruined the vacation because I was supposed to help you with the kids or take care of them by myself, so this wasn't about me? Yeah, reply with, oh, I'm sorry I ruined your vacation. If you had only let me know in advance that you didn't in fact plan this vacation as a celebration for my graduation like you told me, but only wanted me there as your unpaid full-time babysitter, I'd have made more of an effort to be there. Not the jerk. My ex is trying to force me to adopt her son. My wife and I separated about a year ago after 6 years of marriage, but we are not legally divorced yet. We have 2 kids together who are 4 and 2. We both had previous marriages and had kids from those marriages. My kids, who are 12 and 10, have always had a good relationship with their mother, but my stepson, who's 11, hasn't seen his biological father in years. We started seriously discussing the divorce after deciding that it is basically impossible for us to reconcile. We are happy to split custody of our kids and are committed to ensuring that they grow up feeling safe and loved and as stable as possible. But my wife also wants me to commit to having a parental relationship with my stepson because he does not have any other father figures in his life. I refused. I have nothing against the kid personally, but we've both always acknowledged that I wasn't his father. He never called me dad, and I never asked him to. And to share custody of him like I do my biological kids, it sounds insane to me. My wife is upset because her son has started talking to her about how he feels he doesn't have a dad. I understand that must be uncomfortable, but he isn't my son. She needs to talk to his actual father about that. However, when I discussed this with my friends, I got a mixed response. Some agreed with me, some agreed fully with my wife, and some have said I should have committed to that for a limited amount of time for the adjustment period. But it's been almost a year since we've lived together as it is. I don't want to ruin the kid's life, but I don't see why he should be partially my responsibility anymore. Am I the jerk? Edit. To clarify, his father was involved in his life until he was about 6 or 7, and then he disappeared, so I'm not the only father figure he's ever had. Not the jerk. If your soon-to-be ex remarries, your having taken any responsibility for her son would make that really weird. Also, if you take any responsibility for the kid, you may end up paying child support. So sad for the kid, but she would do better to get him involved with big brothers. I don't know. If he's not your son, I get it. But at 11 years old, after 6 years of marriage and 1 of separation, you're realistically the only father figure this kid has ever had. I'm going to say not the jerk because you really aren't obligated to do anything, and it would be a burden for you to accept joint custody. But you've got a chance here to maybe have an ongoing positive influence in this kid's life. Don't pass that up without thinking long and hard about it. Info. Is she expecting child support for your stepson? Or just you still being in his life since you really are the only father figure he knows? I don't think you're the jerk necessarily, but this is a really crappy situation for your stepson, and I imagine could cause some issues between him and his siblings. Also, the kid is 11. Have you considered what he wants? Has anyone asked him? Boomer pushed to the edge over 60 cents. The scene. It's a local McDonald's in the summer of 2020. Lockdown is raging, and I'm a young shift manager handing drinks out the drive-thru window. An old man pulls up, and I hand him his cappuccino. Boomer. I didn't order a hot beverage. Me. Yes, you did, sir. This is a cappuccino, unless you wanted the iced coffee frap. Boomer. Yeah, one of those iced cappuccino things. Me. That's Tim Hortons. There's one right across the street if you'd like. Okay, take this warm crab back and give me my money. Me. Unfortunately, I can't take anything back into the restaurant because of the lockdown. I can still refund you though. No, I don't want it. Take it back. Me. Once you've touched it, I can't, sir. I'm sorry. Boomer proceeds to mutter about whatever and peels off. I see him pull around, get out of his car. I find a coworker to cover me while I head over to the front counter. I know this guy is upset, and I'm ready to make his day even harder. He storms in. Give me one of those iced frappuccino things. I don't want this. Me. Sir, I still can't take it back, but there's garbage all around you. He takes a step back, removes the lid, and lifts the cup as if to pour it onto the floor. Fine, I'll pour it all over the floor then. Me. No, you won't. A standoff ensues. I ring up an iced coffee frap and see that his refund is about 60 cents short of the frap. Normally, I would waive that without a second thought for customer satisfaction. It's McDonald's, 60 cents doesn't mean anything to them. But when you threaten to pour your drink out like a kid, you lose that generosity. Me. Look, would you like the frap? I have your refund right here and I can put it toward the frap. Fine. He then proceeds to throw his cappuccino out. Me. Unfortunately, sir, the frap is 60 cents more expensive than what you paid for it. I'm gonna need you to pay the difference because the cappuccino was an honest mistake on our end, considering what you thought you were ordering. What? I don't say anything. He proceeds to yell every word in the book at me while I stare him down unchanged. At this point, I had handled him start to finish. My senior manager jumped in once Boomer yelled loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear and kicked him out without a second thought. The Boomer left without his refund, cappuccino, or frap. It was a good day. Edit. For my non-Canadian friends, The gentleman wanted an iced cap, which is a very distinct beverage from Tim Hortons. The iced frap, or any other variation of iced cappuccino, was not what he was looking for. His day would have been fine if he had taken his money out the window and drove across the street to Tim's. Am I the jerk for calling my girlfriend spoiled after she said she felt like a Neanderthal showering with a bucket? My girlfriend and I are currently in vacation in Croatia. We booked a small villa from Airbnb in which we have been staying this last week. 3 days ago, the water heater stopped working, so we called the owner. A few hours later, he brought a plumber with him. After some investigation, he told us the issue will take a week or more to solve because the plumber told him that the heater was old and needed replacing, so he needs to shop for a new one and then it needs to be installed in a new location. He told us he was going to refund the amount we paid for that day, plus the remaining days of our booking, and if we wanted to stay despite the lack of hot water, he was going to give us a much cheaper rate, 40% off. We were having a great time and enjoying our stay because the villa was nice and the view of the beach was incredible and looked 10 times better than the heavily edited pictures you see on the internet. Not to mention, it was a good deal, especially with the newer rate, so we decided to stay after I told my girlfriend that we could just shower using a bucket. Something to note, my girlfriend has never showered that way. She's American, but still I assume that many people from the US would have at least heard about it despite never trying it. Growing up, I exclusively showered that way at home until we could afford a heater and its monthly costs. The only showers I took at home before were with cold water. She was surprised to hear it and thought I was joking at first. The following day, I gave her some tips, and after she was done, I asked her how it went. She said it was more of a chore than a shower. Last evening, she went to take a shower again before getting ready to leave for dinner. After she was done, she started complaining nonstop about showering with a bucket, saying it was very primitive and couldn't believe that some people really did it this way because she felt like a Neanderthal the whole time. I didn't like her comment because it was disrespectful. She apologized, saying her comment wasn't directed towards me, but more towards the people that still shower this way. I told her that her clarification makes her comment 100 times worse because it was insulting to a lot of people. She replied that she didn't know what I wanted her to say because she had already apologized to me and asked if I just was looking for a reason to argue. I told her that the last thing I want to do is argue with a spoiled kid and went downstairs. I waited for her while downstairs and she got ready. When she came downstairs, she informed me that she'll be going to the restaurant alone because she didn't want to embarrass me in case she started acting like a spoiled kid. I tried apologizing for my comment, but she just ignored me and left. It's 3:30 now, and she just came back half an hour ago. I tried talking to her again, but she told me she was tired and just wanted to go to sleep. Edit. Someone told me to add my response to this post. It was a suggestion that she agreed with because we both didn't want to leave the villa because of what I mentioned in the post, and since most of the houses by the beach side were booked and the ones we found available were way too expensive for us to afford. We discussed showering at the public showers by the beach, but they only had cold water, and the fact that they were public, the closest gym was 25 minutes away, so it wasn't viable to waste approximately an hour each day to shower unless we planned our days around it because we don't visit the downtown every day. We both decided to stay after I suggested we could shower with hot water using a bucket. It's not like I'm forcing her to stay or shower with a bucket. We could just find another place to stay at for the remainder of our vacation, even if it's not as nice as the villa. Not the jerk. She was acting like a spoiled kid. She doesn't even realize what a privilege it is to be able to complain about that sort of thing. Lol, it's a fair thing to complain about. I'll agree that for those who are not used to it and did not expect it, it is a fair thing to complain about within reason. Continuing to go on and on about it and then be ignorantly insulting to those who do it out of necessity is not at all within reason, especially considering the person she was there with literally had to do that due to necessity. Everyone sucks here. Her comments were insensitive, but your response was deliberately insulting. Edit. You can all stop lecturing me in the replies. I'm not excusing her comments. She definitely needs to learn to examine her privilege and adjust the way she thinks and speaks. Still doesn't mean her boyfriend gets a free pass for calling her a spoiled kid. Insults don't really promote a teachable moment. Everyone sucks here. I'm American and have never showered with a bucket or ever really heard of people showering that way. It's like one of those abstract things you probably know if you used common sense, but yes, because we're privileged, we don't think about it. Taking that into consideration, If I was staying at a villa on vacation, I would be irritated if I had to use a bucket to shower and would very likely complain about it being more of an inconvenience than a regular shower, because it is. I mean, it's vacation. I would assume she was probably trying to make a comparison to express her frustration and was truly not trying to be insulting to a majority of the world population. Americans are known to be lacking self-awareness. Does that make us jerks? Yes, clearly. Is it intentional? Definitely not always. You seem to take her comment as a personal attack, although it wasn't one, and you threw a personal attack back at her that I'm guessing was to hurt her on purpose. Was she acting privileged? Yes. Did you need to call her a spoiled kid? Probably not. Both jerks, but both with a bit of valid reasons on both sides. My wife is demanding to cheat on me, and I don't know what to do. My wife and I have been married since 2001 and together since 1999. She's the most intelligent, thoughtful, caring, loyal person I know, and I've always thought of myself as fortunate to have met and married her. She is, even today, aesthetically beautiful, and men have told her this throughout our marriage. She has always shot them down. Earlier this year, she was diagnosed with uterine cancer, stage 1, and had a full hysterectomy. I was never concerned about the cancer. It was diagnosed early, dealt with quickly, and she made a full recovery. I took time off work to look after her after the surgery, and everything seemed well. There were some to be expected emotional distances on her part, and although I'm not an emotional person, we dealt with them together. After her recovery, she was insistent that we start living life to the fullest and took a 10-day trip to Europe, followed by a trip to Belize. We also have a trip to the UK and Spain and Portugal later this year. I'm fine with these things, building memories and crossing bucket list adventures off her list. I also understand that these are a result of feeling fragile on her part. She also took up yoga, swimming, and healthy cooking classes. I was fully on board until last week. Last week, she came home from work and told me she wanted a hall pass, a one-time opportunity to hook up with someone else besides me. She said that since her cancer diagnosis, her outlook on life has changed, and she doesn't want to be handcuffed from doing things she wants to do. She explained that there's this guy at work that she has always had some attraction to. He's leaving the company and she will never see him again, so this is the perfect opportunity to hook up with him. She said that I could say no, of course, but that she would be mad and disappointed at me for an indeterminate amount of time, and that it would be confirmation of my male toxicity and insecurity. I don't consider myself to be toxic, and if not wanting your wife of 20 plus years to hook up with someone else is insecure, then I guess I am insecure. I told her that I appreciated her talking to me about this, but approval via coercion is not approval. I also said that I do not appreciate her language in describing my, as of yet, unknown reaction to this very large issue that could affect the rest of our marriage and life. I got up in the morning, and she basically said that she was sorry for putting such a large decision solely on my shoulders, and that to help, she was taking the decision away from me. She booked a hotel near where her coworkers are having a party and send-off for this guy, and she would spend the night there, with him, and hoped that I would be here when she got back. That she would answer any questions I have about the night after it happened, but not before. She will not tell me who he is or anything about him, because she knows me too well, and that I will dwell and obsess over him. And that would make it too real for me, which is pretty accurate. Her point of view is that the less I know, the better, which contradicts the offer to tell me anything I want to know after it happened. I know she knows I won't want to know or ask anything, or she simply will not tell me. Part of me thinks, at least she has been honest with me, and she's been through a lot since finding out she had cancer, so maybe I should just let it happen. I certainly have no concept of what she went through, so I can't dismiss how this affected her mental state and outlook on life. Part of me wants to put my foot down and say this is not going to happen and deal with those consequences when they happen. Her BFF called me callous for even suggesting that I wouldn't let it happen because I have no idea what she went through. I find it hard to believe that she's okay with the possibility of throwing away 20 plus years of marriage over some guy that she has no real relationship with outside of work, and that I should just call her bluff. Maybe she thinks similarly that I won't throw away the marriage because of one encounter. I just don't know what to do. I empathize with her, and then an instant later I'm angry with her. Part of me wants to know who this guy is. What does he look like? What has he got that is so enthralling for her? Is he just a safe option? Is he married? Does his wife know? Would I be a callous jerk for saying no? What can I do besides walking away? Kinda think this is the way your marriage will be from now on. With her epiphany, she wants to relive her life, and she's going to do it regardless of your feelings. I think she's being selfish and probably only threatens this because she thinks you are beaten down and will simply put up with it. Perhaps not the best time for trips and frills. She wants the single life. Let her see what that means. OP. She thinks because she'll never see this guy again and that I've never met him, supposedly, that it won't really affect me or our marriage in the long term. I'm left with accepting it and never viewing her the same way again or going through a divorce at 54. Not really great options on either front. I don't know where her head is, and the bout with cancer is affecting her in ways that I couldn't possibly imagine. I don't think she believes I will leave. Update. I was hoping that my opposition to her plans would give her pause, but unfortunately that did not happen. I said I'm a hard no, and I'm not sure how I will feel about you if you go ahead with it. I was met once again with, "This is for me. It will be one time. What can I say to help you deal with it? You'll get over it. We were meant to be regardless of the situation." She kept saying all of this leading up to Saturday. She left Saturday, ostensibly to meet her coworkers, but in reality to hook up with the guy. I asked her to text me when she was leaving for the bar, and when she did, I asked her if she was really going to go through with this. After her response, "I'm not answering any more questions tonight. I'll see you tomorrow." I blocked my wife. Then I did something either stupid or brilliant. I went to the bar where the get-together was happening. Well, not the bar, but a transit bench across the street. I waited for a long time. It was running through my mind leading up to this event that I need to know who the guy was, maybe to compare myself against him, to see what he had that I don't. It was driving me crazy not knowing who he was and what was so special about him that she would ruin a marriage for. After what seemed like an eternity, a woman that I recognized from my wife's office left the bar and got in a cab. Soon, other people started filing out, and a whole group came out and people were hugging a man and shaking his hand. I assumed I had my guy. I didn't see my wife and had a brief thought that maybe she called it off. I unblocked her and there were no messages. Everyone said their goodbyes and left. Dude was standing outside for a few minutes and then my wife came out. She looked around, took his hand, and started walking away together. Of all the emotions I went through, trepidation, sadness, anger, it was disgust that really encapsulated the event for me. This guy was short, fat, and bald, all the things I cannot compete with. Ultimately, I felt like a creep for watching from a distance. I followed until they got to the hotel and then turned around and went home. I woke up Sunday morning and put a lock on my master bedroom door. I moved her things to the spare room and left a note asking her to find other accommodations as quickly as possible. I visited another friend who's a lawyer and he gave me some sage advice and a couple of recommendations for divorce attorneys and made the introductions. My wife had been calling me numerous times since around 11 or so. Once blocked, the calls go to voicemail. I listened to the first couple, but felt nothing but some satisfaction when she couldn't get through to me and she was obviously becoming concerned. I didn't want to go home, but I left in such a hurry that I didn't plan an overnight properly. I got home around 9, and as per my buddy's advice, I recorded the interaction. I was halfway up the stairs when she came up from the family room asking what was going on. Could we talk? I thought we talked about this. I just answered with "I'm not interested in discussing this tonight" and went to bed. After not getting a response from me through the door, she left me alone. I feel kind of like a kid for not talking with her and shutting the door on her, but I just couldn't look at her. Monday, I got up and got ready for work. She was waiting for me and asked if we could discuss going back to normal. I said, "You've been doing all the talking for the both of us for the past week. Why don't you continue?" And I left for work. I have an appointment with the attorneys my friend recommended for this week. The casual disregard for a life partner of 20 years is shocking. "I'm going to do this thing to betray you. I look forward to you getting over it." That's not a relationship. That's not mutual respect and caring and understanding. Cancer sucks. There's no better way to put it, but it doesn't give you a pass to disregard the people in your life. Show of hands, who believes the soon-to-be ex-wife is going to regret her hall pass with the guy from the office when she finds out how much better life was with OP? Her friends sound awful too, who encouraged her to do it, to toss 20 years of marriage down the drain. This is one of the most infuriating posts I've ever read. Firstly, what was she thinking? How on earth did she think a unilateral decision to cheat on her husband and go on to lecture him on how he's being toxic about it would work out? She got what she wanted. I hope she's okay with the inevitable price. I guess she thought that she had him over a barrel. Am I the jerk for telling my fiancé my daughter has to be in our wedding? I, 45 male, have a daughter, Polly, from a previous relationship. I divorced my ex-wife on good terms and we share 50-50 custody of Polly. She's now 11. After I divorced my ex-wife, I met my now fiancé, Sharon. Sharon and my daughter got along very well. After 5 years in my relationship with Sharon, I proposed. Sharon was super excited and wanted to start planning right away. She looked at venues and started asking her friends to be her bridesmaids. She then told me she wanted her niece to be a flower girl, which I had no problem with, but I said I also wanted Polly to be a flower girl. Sharon looked at me funny, and then she said she didn't think that Polly would fit the part. I got angry and told Sharon that my daughter would be in our wedding. Sharon started to become upset and said that the girls in the wedding were up to her and Polly wouldn't be one of them. I told Sharon that if Polly wasn't in the wedding, then there might not be a wedding. I stormed out and took Polly to get ice cream. Polly knows we're getting married and told me she thinks she will look pretty, whatever dress Sharon decides she should wear. This broke my heart and I decided to text Sharon. I told her I would be staying at a friend's to think this over. My mother-in-law texted me saying that I overreacted and that my daughter doesn't have to be in my wedding and I was a jerk for saying that I would cancel. So did I take this too far by saying I will cancel? Am I overreacting or just being a good dad? Did you propose alternatives to the flower girl position? I said I wanted her in the wedding in some shape or form. I wanted her to be part of our day and not sitting with the guests while we walked down the aisle. Fiancé said it would be best if she just sat with my parents. Many have suggested a junior bridesmaid, but my fiancé still declines. I did tell my fiancé she will be in the wedding, and if that means she has to be a groomsman, then so be it. Fiancé blew up, saying she's not a boy, and my side is only for boys. She denied my request to have a father-daughter dance with Polly, so this is why I'm rethinking the whole wedding. Sharon and I are going to talk tonight, and hopefully she will give me a full reasoning. Has Polly ever said anything about Sharon treating her poorly? Polly has never voiced any concerns about Sharon treating her badly. I've never seen anything happen between them, so this was very out of the blue. Surprisingly, Sharon has never had an issue with Polly until the wedding. The two have always been super close, so her reaction shocked me for sure. I would have never popped the question if Polly wasn't comfortable. I totally understand where you're coming from. I do think it's crazy that I haven't seen any signs. I've talked to Polly and told her to tell me if anything has ever happened. Polly can't recall a single time Sharon was mean to her. Update. Talked to her mom this morning because I wanted Polly to stay with her until this was figured out. Her mom said she hopes it goes well and told me I could stay with her and Polly if need be. She said Polly always comes home with nothing negative to say, so we aren't sure where this came from. Update. I came home to talk to Sharon today. When I pulled in our driveway, my mother-in-law was sitting there in her car. I got out and went inside trying to avoid talking to mother-in-law. Sharon was sitting at the kitchen table and I joined her. She sat in silence, so I asked the first question. Why does Polly not fit the part? And why don't you want her in the wedding at all? Her answer full-on shocked me. She quietly said, I was hoping that after the wedding, you could become a holiday visit-only dad. I didn't want her in the wedding so she wouldn't be in the photos around the house since she wasn't going to be around much. I kept my cool, calmly took her hand and pulled the engagement ring off. Her eyes started to tear up. She said we shouldn't end the marriage over this and that she can change. I told her the damage was already done. I told her I wanted her things moved out by next week and that she should come get them when my daughter wasn't home. The house is in my name and I paid for it. I was allowing her to get her furniture that she paid for. She stormed out and mother-in-law came knocking on my door saying I was being unreasonable. I couldn't imagine only seeing my daughter 3 or 4 times a year. The fact that Sharon wanted me to give up part of my custody blew me away. I'm sitting on my couch just in shock. Our honeymoon was supposed to be in Hawaii. Looks like me and Polly will be going instead. Update. My girlfriend is sad all the time because she misses her ex. We've been dating for around 7 months now. Basically, she still has feelings for her ex, Tom. Now, to my knowledge, she hasn't done anything or talked to him in at least 2 months. Last week, someone mentioned him at her work, and she got really sad. When I asked her what was wrong, she basically told me that she felt unwanted and that nobody loved her, even though I told her how beautiful she is and how much I love her every day. She says it's more the fact that she doesn't like the idea that someone would forget about her so easily. I hug her and tell her that everything's going to be okay. Fast forward to late last night. She starts getting sad again, and I tell her to be honest and just tell me what's going on. She says that she still misses and has feelings for Tom, and how even though she loves me and wants to marry me, she gets sad because she feels unwanted. She told me she wrote up a text to him looking for closure, but apparently decided not to send it because he might not respond. I told her that she can always talk to me about these things and that I would help her through this. I asked if she needed space, and she said no, that's the last thing she wants. She wants me to be with her while she works through this. I'm feeling really conflicted. I love this girl, but it's so painful to me that after all the time and love I've given her, she's still sad because of her ex. It just hurts knowing that nothing I do will be enough. I feel like I'm pouring my heart into her, but it's just leaking out, if that makes sense. I don't want to leave her, but I feel so empty and sad. Is it really worth working through things with her, even though it hurts me? How do I approach this situation without disrespecting her feelings? Update. After the last post, she asked me if we could take a week apart to figure things out. I asked her if we were breaking up, and she said no, just taking a break and giving each other some space so we can think clearly. Now, in the past, taking breaks has never worked in my previous relationships. But hey, I thought maybe this time she'd see the wrongs of her ways and come back to me more in love than ever. So a day goes by and we're on our break, not really talking. Then all of a sudden, late at night, she asks me if she can come over that night. I ask her why, since we're on a break. She says she misses me. This is at like 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'm sleepy and confused. Okay, I say. I let her come over and she spends the night. Next day, she asks to come over again. I say sure, and she does. At this point, I start getting suspicious for a couple of reasons. One, she had recently shaved, and she has very rarely ever done that with me, and we hadn't even done anything together in like a couple of weeks. I asked her, and she just said, yeah, she shaved after work. 2, she was wearing a bracelet, which I had never seen before. I asked her about it, and she didn't even respond. So now I'm thinking something's up, but maybe it's just my insecurities. Oh well, I slept it off. Next day, together, we go to work. We work in the same building. She sometimes leaves her phone in the car, and she did so this morning. Now this is where I will admit I am in the wrong, but when I was on my break, I went out to our car and looked in her phone. I saw so many messages to her ex, Tom, saying how she wanted him. Those nights she came over to my house late, she was spending the evening with him earlier. Yes, she sent him all kinds of pics. The night before, when I dropped her off at home, I saw she was texting him 30 minutes later telling him to come over. I felt sick to my stomach and my heart was racing. I put the phone down, messaged her on Facebook to never talk to me again, and blocked her on everything, even her number. She then found me in my office and very loudly asked me what was going on in front of my coworkers. I told her we could go outside and talk, and we did. I told her that I saw everything on her phone. She yelled at me, called me crazy, and said, I can't be with someone so insecure as you, and then stormed off. I avoided her for the rest of the day. Later, at the end of the workday, she came by again, this time smiling and pouting, very softly asking me if we could talk. I said whatever, and we went outside again. First thing she did was threaten to get police involved because I looked through her phone without permission, which she said was a form of breaking and entering. I kinda laughed and said, go right ahead if that's what you want. Then she started tearing up and saying, why would you do that? And I asked why she'd send those pics to Tom. She said it was for validation. I asked why she would even be with me if she felt that way about him. She said that she loved me and wanted to marry me and have kids with me. I asked if they had done anything. She said no, but part of me knows she's lying. Anyways, as I'm sitting there listening to all of this, a part of me is wanting to just hug her and hold her and tell her that we're gonna work through this together. But then I realized that the girl I loved was never real. I just loved the idea of her. That this girl sitting in front of me with her fake tears and apologies was just going to lie again. That if I got back with her, it would just enable her further. So at the end of the conversation when she asked, are we really done forever? We can't just work through this? I told her no, and that I was never going to see her or speak to her again. To which she just stood up and said, if you say so, have a nice life, and walked away. I don't know what to feel right now. Why do I feel like I made a mistake? Why do I want to unblock her and call her and tell her that I love her? I know she's not for me. Everyone at work tells me that she's not for me. My family dislikes her. I don't know. Is there something wrong with me? Why does a part of me feel like I could just forgive her for all of this? If I believed that they didn't hook up, I could look past it as just her making a mistake. I'm just so confused. Edit. So after I got home from work, literally 10 minutes later, my doorbell rings and it's her. I ignore it, but then 20 minutes later, she's ringing it again. So I open the door and she's crying, begging for me back, telling me she'll do anything I ask her to do to make this work, that she loves me and only me and wants to marry me and have kids with me and move far away with me. I asked her if all that was true, why'd she do any of those things that she did? She just cried and said she didn't know, that she's stupid and was looking for validation, that she has abandonment issues from her childhood. Anyways, after we talked, I basically just stood my ground and told her there's no chance of making this work anymore and sent her home. She asked me to unblock her in case of emergency, and I only agreed for the next week or so while this settles down. I'm reading all your comments now. This is all just so crazy to me. How could this girl do this? I can't even fathom talking to someone else while in a relationship, let alone cheating. Edit 2. Okay, I blocked her again, as y'all recommended. But before I did, she had already sent me a few texts. Was I wrong to assume we were getting back together? I mean, we were fine yesterday and last night. If you don't want to be with me anymore, fine. I'll accept that and leave you alone. I have a feeling she'll be showing up at my front door again later. I just hope I have the strength to not open it. Edit. Well, she just left my house. I opened the door after she started knocking again, but I just walked outside and didn't let her in. Well, she just left my house. I opened the door after she started knocking again, but I just walked outside and didn't let her in. I asked why she was here. She asked me, why am I the only one being held accountable here? Why aren't you holding yourself accountable for breaking into my phone and invading my privacy? To which I just said, I fully know and accept what I did was wrong and I apologize, but that does not lessen what you did in any way. She then said, if I don't hear from you again, it's probably because something horrible happens to me. Goodbye. And then she got in her car and drove away. What exactly should I do now? Is she just bluffing so I'll call her to make sure she's all right? If, God forbid, something did happen, would it be my fault? Edit 4. This will probably be the last update for a while. Somehow she managed to message me through Instagram and sent me this. Dear OP, I hope you never give up on us. I'm trying my best to be better. Wait for me. I love you so much it hurts to think I might lose you in the long run. Is she just trying to make me feel bad about all this? Because truthfully, it's starting to get to me. I hope you had cameras when she came over during your break. Do not be alone with her again, for your own safety. Have you ever dealt with someone who treated you like this? If so, what'd you do about it? Please let us know.
That girl's got more issues than Nintendo Power.
I refuse to tell a customer my name. I'm a service manager at an upscale dining restaurant. Today I had an interaction with a customer that has left me spooked and confused. This young 20-something woman came in to dine with us about less than 20 minutes before closing. Our host welcomed her in, then realized she was holding a small dog. Host, we do not allow pets in the dining area, but you're welcome to sit in our covered patio or any outdoor seating of your choosing.
Lady, no, she's an ESA and I come here with her all the time, and all the managers let her come in and pet her.
The host asks me what to do, and during that time, the lady decides to seat herself in one of our indoor booths. As I was towards the end of my 15-hour shift, I was super tired and drained and hungry, and I had no will to argue with the customer. I told her to just let her sit there. She sat and ate her meal. Her dog was bouncing all over the booths and the tabletop. Health code violation. Not at all trained, as it's a 4-month-old little poodle mix. After she finished her meal, her server brought her over the check, and she asked for a military discount, then proceeded to open a picture from her phone of her dad's military ID. Server, sorry, we offer military discount to active or retired members of the military with a valid physical ID.
Lady, this is my family's ID. I use it all the time. I want to speak to your boss.
I arrived at the table and reiterated what the server had said because it is in fact our restaurant policy.
I hope you're not insinuating that I'm lying about my family's military status.
Me. I hope there hasn't been any confusion regarding our policies on military discounts. They are only offered to members of the military when they are present. She proceeded to tell me I'm obviously new here and don't know how things work. I'm not new. In fact, I opened the restaurant and I've worked there 5 days a week since then. She said since she's walked in, we have treated her and her dog poorly and that the food was trash and the service and staff was unpleasant. I asked her what was wrong with her meal and if she had shared her concerns with the server, which she hadn't. I offered to make her a new meal to go, but she just refused and threatened to call corporate, at which point I had to chuckle because we are a privately owned business. She asked for mine and everybody's name that was working, and I refused to give her my name because to me, she seemed like a delusional lunatic and I didn't feel comfortable with her having any of my personal information. Me refusing to share my name and my staff's made her even more upset and she pulled out her phone and started recording us on it. I personally felt very violated and wanted to literally smack that phone out of her hand, but I need this job, so here I am venting instead. Am I the jerk? Because my manager says I should have owned up in that situation and told her my name and whoever else's that she needed. I feel like that's absurd, and enabling her disgusting behavior is none of my job. ESAs aren't allowed in restaurants, and even if it was a legit service animal, the second they start becoming a disruption, you can legally kick them out. Y'all need to grow some spines. Dogs are not allowed indoors. ESAs are not service animals. Stand up for your coworkers and other customers. Am I the jerk for refusing to stand up for my girlfriend when I felt she purposely started drama with my mother? I've been with my girlfriend for 2 years, and we're talking about getting engaged soon. I love her wholeheartedly and would choose her over my mom in a heartbeat. They don't get along at all, so it's come up plenty of times, and I think I've done a good job of siding with my girlfriend. They just flat out don't like each other, but they also seem to have some rivalry going on. My girlfriend has confided in me that she feels like she can't win. They're both guilty of being competitive, but she feels my mom has a lot of stuff over her. I, of course, don't agree, but it bothers her. My mom is really good at cooking, but her baking is just okay. She can't decorate the cakes at all, and my girlfriend recently discovered this. My mom's fiancé had a birthday, and he wanted a banana cake with honey cream cheese frosting. My mom made it, and it wasn't great looking. Tasted good, though. My girlfriend made the same cake, but decorated it beautifully and decided to bring it to the party. It was a work of art, but I told her she was just trying to cause problems, and I didn't want her to bring it. She decided to bring it, and I didn't stop her. When we got there, my mom saw her cake and didn't look happy, but she didn't say anything. My mom's fiancé just flat out refused to touch my girlfriend's cake. I think he told other guests to do the same because no one would eat it. I took a big piece and I praised it, but she was clearly upset. She went over and tried to pressure him to eat it, and honestly, he was pretty rude. He told her he sees through her. He isn't going to touch her cake, but if it makes her feel better because she found one thing that she's good at, then take the win. He thanked my mom for his cake, kissed her, and then told my girlfriend she was bothering him and to get out of his face. I didn't do anything in the moment. She later asked me to talk to him, and I declined. I said she brought the cake to cause problems, so I think his reaction was okay. She teared up a bit and said that he was really mean and I need to say something. I still refused, and when we left, I said goodbye, thanked them for inviting us, and was just normal. She accused me of being spineless and is still upset. Not the jerk. Your girlfriend was way out of line, and I don't care how rude mom's fiancé was to her. He was just exactly perfect in what he did for his love. Your girlfriend does not deserve a win for trying to one-up your mom at her fiancé's birthday. She's gross, and I have some ideas about why your mom doesn't like her. Yeah, I mean, the girlfriend is a massive rude jerk here. This is outrageous. Trying to upstage the birthday boy's fiancé, the hostess, by bringing in a fancier version of the cake, and even trying to pressure people into eating it, and then acting like she's got any right to feel hurt because people were mean, as in they called her out for how outrageous she was being, instead of embarrassed and mortified because what on earth was she thinking? Not the jerk, OP, but your girlfriend is not right in the head. This goes beyond just being competitive. She was being mind-bogglingly rude and out of line, and it's a giant marinara flag that she doesn't acknowledge just how bad she messed up and how rude she was. It's unhealthy for her to be so obsessed with winning. She's willing to cause scenes and ruin celebrations with this type of intentional being a jerk, and won't even apologize, but will instead get mad at people for not supporting her insane upstaging antics. My wife is demanding I take over her household chores. I, 34 male, recently had a heated argument with my pregnant wife, who's 30, and I'm wondering if I'm the jerk here. After a year of trying, my wife is currently 7 months pregnant with our first baby, but it hasn't been smooth sailing. She's been dealing with morning sickness, fatigue, and other pregnancy-related challenges. I've been supportive, buying her cravings and attending all OB/GYN appointments. However, things have changed when she started expecting me to do more around the house. I want to clarify that I'm not a jerk. I understand that household chores can be shared, but in our household, it's been our arrangement that she handles most of them. I work a demanding full-time job, and I often come home exhausted. However, my wife believes that since she's pregnant, I should take on the majority of the household chores. She insists that she needs more rest and less stress for the sake of the baby. I provide for us financially, and I believe that should be enough. The baby would be more affected by growing up in a poverty-stricken home, right? I think it's fair for her to handle most of the chores since she's not working and she's not physically incapable of doing them. I understand she may need naps or breaks due to pregnancy discomfort, but not doing any chores at all seems excessive. We had a huge fight the other day when she asked me to do the laundry. I was tired after work, and I told her it was her responsibility if she wanted it done that night. I explained that I would be willing to help on weekends, but it's not my agreed-upon role. She got upset, accusing me of not caring about her or the baby. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen. She claims the baby will suffer if she does housework, which I don't understand. She called me selfish, saying that I'm neglecting my responsibilities as a husband and a father. I argued that she was just being lazy and expecting too much. We didn't speak for the rest of the evening. The next day, seeking advice, I talked to friends and family who all sided with me. They said my wife was being unreasonable and taking advantage of me. They agreed I was already doing enough by providing financially. Feeling validated, I confronted my wife and shared what others had said. She got angrier, accusing me of twisting the situation to make myself look good. She claimed I was surrounded by biased people who didn't understand her challenges as a woman. I'm frustrated and hurt. I genuinely believe I'm not in the wrong. I work hard to support our family, and we had agreed upon household roles. She never mentioned her pregnancy involved me taking over chores. I fear this will escalate when the baby is born, and I don't have time for that. I think she's being unreasonable and expecting too much. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. She's heavily pregnant, for crying out loud. She's uncomfortable and exhausted 24/7. This isn't about you. Your partner is asking for support, and you've not only made it clear you won't step up to support her with everyday things that she's clearly struggling to do, but you deliberately sought out opinions of others so you could try to convince her she's being unreasonable. Stop gaslighting your partner and grow up. Yes, you're tired and have a lot of responsibilities, but instead of getting upset about this, it's your turn to step up for your partner when they need you. If you can't manage this much before your kid is even born, good luck in parenthood. OP. I agree she's exhausted, but she's not as uncomfortable as you make it out to be. She goes for walks in the morning with her friends and can still function throughout the day. She seems perfectly capable of doing all the other chores and only takes a nap once in the afternoon. Her pregnancy is going pretty well right now, that we have even got past the morning sickness stage. My point is, she doesn't seem that exhausted, except for when it's time to do the chores, when she is all of a sudden fatigued and asks me, after 9.5 hours of work plus commute, to do all of them for her. So, just to give you some perspective, I'm currently 6 months pregnant and it's taken a huge toll on my body physically. My center of gravity has changed, so I'm a lot more clumsy. When I lift a basket of laundry, it pulls on the ligaments in my stomach and leaves pain for the rest of the day. I'm going to the bathroom all the time, accidentally starting to fall asleep standing sometimes, still triggered and throw up from time to time. On top of all of that, on the days when I've pushed myself too hard, either through exercise or doing house chores, I get a migraine that lasts for a day and doesn't go away. On top of all of this, sleep has been rough from about the 3rd month. It's painful in certain positions, and on top of that, I haven't had a solid 8-hour sleep in ages. I'm sure there are so many more symptoms I've had that I'm forgetting. Your wife is not trying to be lazy or not help around the home. She's probably really struggling physically and needs you to help her. Too much stress on the body does actually affect the baby because your body is also trying to take care of you. I really think you should research or watch some videos on the experience as a pregnant woman and show your wife that you're trying to put yourself in her shoes. So far, it doesn't sound like you're trying to empathize with her experience. She's doing a huge job for your family by creating this baby for you and then dealing with all of the postpartum trauma and hardship. Think about it this way too. Women get paid to carry babies for couples as a job, as a surrogate. Your wife is currently doing that for you. She's really in a way doing several jobs: cleaner, house manager, and pregnancy. With how you've reacted to her and treated her, right now, you're the jerk. OP. Genuinely, thank you so much for this comment. I asked my wife if she had felt any of this, and she told me she did, and I realized I was just so blind and inconsiderate. I did do research and watch some videos, but I mostly talked to my wife and truthfully asked her what she wanted. Please leave me any more notes or help if you can under my update. I've opened my eyes now. Update. So it turns out my brother-in-law is pretty active here. Hi, Rob. So my wife confronted me after discovering my previous post, and I want to share the outcome of our conversation. I made a mistake by assuming she wasn't or was barely struggling with her pregnancy due to a lack of open communication. She rightfully called me out for dismissing her feelings in the past, and it hit me hard. We had a 2-hour conversation where she expressed her experiences and challenges, and I realized how wrong I was for assuming she was okay when she wasn't. Thank you to all the moms who commented under the original post. It really shocked me. We also discussed our vision for parenting, and she made me aware that prioritizing work would mean minimal time with our kid. This resonated with me as I grew up with an absent father and really strongly don't want the same for my kid. We talked about tasks she could comfortably do, considering her physical limitations, like washing dishes and folding clothes while sitting. In return, I agreed to help with everything else, such as mopping, gardening, cooking, making the bed, and doing laundry. I realized that rigid roles in the household were problematic, especially with a baby on the way. We need to be flexible and support each other as needed. To those who called me out for appearing like a jerk, it was never my intention. This situation stemmed from a lack of communication and empathy on my part, which I now recognize. I promised to her to learn from this experience and be a better partner. Also, not an excuse, but I've been so obsessed with work these past few months as I just got a promotion, and I think that's why I've been so blind. If I proceeded like this, I know for a fact that my kids would have suffered and I would have lived to regret it. I apologized profusely to my wife because wow, was I an idiot. We considered hiring a nanny, but my wife isn't comfortable with that idea yet. Instead, my sister will help out occasionally. To actively participate in parenting, I will take paternity leave in about a month. It's the bare minimum, but it shows my commitment to being more involved and supportive. Lastly, we're thrilled to announce that we'll be welcoming a baby girl into our lives. I want to apologize deeply to my wife, the Reddit community, and anyone affected by my previous post. I've learned valuable lessons about communication, empathy, and understanding during this transformative time. Thank you for holding me accountable and offering support and guidance. When I read, I provide for us financially and I believe that should be enough, the baby would be more affected by growing up in a poverty-stricken home, my immediate thought was, well, your marriage is done for. I'm very glad it didn't turn out like that and that OP saw sense. It doesn't happen that often in posts like this. The ability to admit you are wrong seems to be surprisingly rare. You don't have to look past Reddit itself to find endless examples. This has cheered me up regardless. Good luck to them. I don't know. I'm 8.5 months pregnant and a stay-at-home mom, and I still do 80% of the household chores. I agree he's being a little hard on her, but she should still be doing some of the household work. What does she do all day? I guess I'll be in the minority here. I think this was not the jerk. He's the one working all day and doesn't want to do laundry when he comes home. She thinks he should. They're both tired. It's important that the house be clean and money come in for the baby. Nobody's the jerk here. I will point out that she likely is, to some extent, being lazy. That's because she's pregnant. Being lazy is the only way to get any kind of relaxation. You can't do a lot of the things you used to be able to do to relax. The ultimate goal is to understand the limitations and work around them. If she can't bend over, you do the laundry and bring it to her to fold while you do other chores. She shouldn't be entitled to not do absolutely anything unless she needed bed rest. Although in the last 2 months it's hard to even get around for her, so I get it. But she should still be capable of helping with a few basic limited chores. Having a single person do all of the chores for 2 people and work full-time for months on end will drive anyone insane. The guy is entitled to a break too. My wife and I agreed that the house was going to just be messy sometimes and to not be upset about it. I was working upwards of 60 hours a week, and then when the baby was born, we were alternating getting up every 2 hours, even with me being up at 4 a.m. for work. It's about understanding where both people are coming from, and what I got from this is that while the husband was wrong, the wife also initially refused to see his perspective and only said, "But I'm pregnant." Edit. You can downvote me all you want, but if the shoe were on the other foot and the husband was disabled or had some kind of injury, you'd call him a lazy jerk and say that he's milking it and that he can help somehow. The Reddit hypocrisy is why this platform gets made fun of as nothing but trash. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. Is my boyfriend cheating on me? Am I just being naive? Help me. I just got home from a weekend trip with my son last night. As I was unpacking my things, I went into our closet and on the floor was a semi-wet towel. I picked it up and threw it in the basket and tossed my clothes from my suitcase in the basket. I then went into the bathroom and put away my toiletries. While I was doing that, I found a second wet towel hanging on the back of the door, where we usually put them to dry before we throw them into the laundry. Both of these towels were wet. The towel I used to dry my hair on Friday night before I left was also hanging there and it was dry. On my bathroom counter next to the lotion and my hairbrush was a little pink elastic band. This is the second time that I've come home from a trip and there were 2 wet towels in my bathroom. The first time the wet towel was on my bathroom floor and kind of smelled a little bit. He said to me, "Hey, the towel on the floor is because I accidentally left the door open and got the floor wet." He then snatched it up and stuck it in the washing machine immediately. He had not showered yet when I got home. He was still in his work clothes and I was only gone Saturday and Sunday night. I do not use elastics in my hair at all. I use a no-tangle, no-pull hairband in a blonde color that matches my hair. I've never owned a pink elastic. My son's girlfriend has never been in our bathroom. We have a full guest bath in the guest bedroom, and she also has long hair and uses ouchless plastic hair ties. I asked him if he had started using hair elastics last night to see what he would say. He's mostly bald, and he responded, "What? It's not mine," instead of the laugh that I expected. Did he have a lady over while I was away? Should I ask and be that jealous of a woman? Should I just assume the extra towel is because he's careless when I'm not home and got the floor wet again, and the elastic somehow got into our home coincidentally? Help. I went home on my lunch break and lint rolled the towel. Only had little hairs, probably his, and grass on it. He did mow the lawn Saturday and probably used this towel to wipe off all of his sweat before he ate because it was 105 degrees on Saturday. I now feel like a jerk and I'm upset with myself for even asking this question because of a pink hair elastic that he could have and probably did pick up from the floor and put with my things because he assumed it was mine. I will be just straight up and asking him when I get home from work. If he denies or acts sketchy, I will move out. That's simple. I do know how to love myself. I just get really concerned that I'm overreacting due to past trauma. Thanks for all the advice. You are all amazing. Edit. 1. The amount of angry people asking why I posted this to ask for advice is so confusing to me. Why are you all so mad that I made a post asking for advice in a forum that has willing participants giving advice? 2. It's not helpful to tell people that they're wasting time posting on the internet for advice when the last word they said was literally help. Please think about the impact of your words on people. 3. The person who posted earlier that he couldn't believe a 40-year-old wasn't smarter than this? I can't find your post at the moment to comment. But sir, everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and saying I'm not intelligent enough for my age was probably meant as an insult, but I'm going to inform you that everyone grows differently emotionally. There is no age limit on learning. If you can't be kind, why even say anything at all? I can't believe anyone would come at a stranger with malice just for asking for advice. Sounds sketchy. I wonder if there was someone there and they left you a hair tie as a way to give you a heads up. OP. This is exactly where my brain went. Makes me nauseous that it was my first reaction though, because years of therapy have taught me that the worst explanation is not always the right one, but my trauma brain always goes there first. Thankfully, I no longer say my intrusive thoughts aloud. I'm leaning towards he's having an affair and the girlfriend is trying to get him caught by leaving behind a pink elastic for you to find. It's a pretty standard mistress move from what I gather reading this sub. OP. The thing that makes this make sense to me is that our bathroom is very clearly occupied by myself. My robe, my skincare products, I have a whole vanity with my face routine products and a high stool. This is where I found the elastic. Well, what do you think? Is OP's husband up to no good or not? Please let us know.
Sometimes the signs are right in front of our eyes, but it's up to us if we see them or not.
My fiancé left me alone in the woods. I've been with my fiancé for 6 years. I'm 26, female, and he's 32, male. He's always had kind of a short temper and often picks up arguments over small things, but he's so very kind every other time. But he's usually very kind, so I usually just look past it and maybe hope that he would chill out. He's funny and I really do love him. I do my best to avoid arguments, but sometimes it's impossible. Anyway, we had gone to a beach about 45 minutes away from home located in a state park, which is not staffed or really patrolled well at all today, and had been drinking and swimming and having a good time. I remember feeling so happy and content because we hadn't argued in several days and he had been in a good mood, etc. We began to leave and started heading home, still in good spirits. The beach was located in a remote area and neither of us had phone signal to use the GPS to leave. He began to yell and take his anger out on the steering wheel and I instantly felt defensive, like every happy moment of the day was crumbling right there because usually once this behavior starts, the day is ruined. I made the mistake of yelling back at him that he needed to chill out, quit making everything such a huge deal, etc. I regret this, but I just felt so overwhelmed. I just wanted the good vibes to continue, you know? We argued back and forth for a few moments before he angrily pulled the truck to the small paved parking lot where people usually stop to rest or grill food, that kind of thing. He screamed at me to get out, and, like an idiot, I did, and he left me there. I sat in the brush and cried for a few minutes before a man approached me and started asking me uncomfortable questions about where I was from, who I was with, where they were. I tried to be friendly in the hopes that my fiancé would return soon, but the stranger started trying to grab my hand and offered me a ride home, and it made me so scared that I lied and said I had to go meet my boyfriend at a spot nearby and walked down the road quickly. I made it about a quarter of a mile away before I sat by a little pond where some people were fishing. I had no cell phone signal to call anyone to get me, and I was scared to ask for help, so I just sat there and tried not to panic for almost 3 hours. I was alone the majority of the time, so when I arrived, the only people around were already packed and leaving. From 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., I was left alone in the forest until I was able to find cell phone service after wandering for a bit and called my fiance's mom to come get me. It's now almost 8 p.m. and I'm extremely sunburned and thirsty. I am quite pale and had been drinking all day until he left, but I finally walked far enough to get a signal to call his mom for help. I haven't spoken to him yet, but he has sent several messages that I just got, seeing as I had no signal, basically just asking where I was and complaining that I had his wallet in my purse. I'm still waiting for my ride to get here, still very lost and upset. I feel so hurt and betrayed, and as if this was a huge overreaction on his end, but I do love him, and if it's my fault, I want to know. It was such a scary experience, which is why I feel it was too much. I'm currently safe and staying the night with my mom. After my fiancé and his mom finally found me after a stranger noticed me on the side of the road and drove me around the park for 15 minutes looking for them, they both started in on me that this is all my fault because I should have just refused to get out of the car to begin with. I realize that's what logic will tell you to do, but it's hard to be logical when you're upset, tipsy, and being screamed at. He also claimed that he looked for me for 2 hours before leaving to rally help in looking. His mom swears up and down he's telling the truth too, but I don't believe it. I sat in the spot he left me at for at least 30 minutes before I was scared off by a stranger, and then I sat in a very visible, heavily trafficked area next to a creek that was maybe a quarter mile from where I started with no visual barriers whatsoever for another 2.5. I never saw or heard him drive by once. I remember listening closely for him because his truck is loud and I would have heard it coming. I can now see that he's put me in danger, maybe even more danger than I realized at the time, and he still hasn't apologized, but I don't expect him to because he thinks he's right in this. I'm going to try and remove him from my life and spend some time alone. I will admit that in my quest for love and closeness, I have let him and others treat me less than great just to keep them around. Thank you all again for helping me understand what a doormat I've been. And trying to force this man to love me, I have forgotten to love myself. My girlfriend no longer finds me attractive after a body transformation. How do we discuss this? When I turned 30, I decided to go to the gym for the first time in my life. I had a bit of an early midlife crisis, I think, and wanted to get in shape before I was too old to really give it a try. When I'm old, I can look back and know I was fit and strong once upon a time kind of thing. Before this, I had what she described as a nerdy body. I had long, scruffy hair, small shoulders, and a bit of weight around my waist. I wasn't particularly macho in the traditional sense, but I was her type. In the 2 years since I started training, I have physically changed a lot. I also have a lot more muscle definition and have been intentionally changing my diet and lifestyle to lose fat. I've been successful in what I needed to achieve. Today, she mentioned how she's struggling with the changes. I no longer look anything like the person she fell in love with. I agree with her and also understand, but it puts me in a strange place. If I had gotten excessively overweight and she was finding me unattractive, I would understand, as we know being overweight is not a great thing for your health. I have gone the opposite way and have gained muscle, and she says she doesn't find me attractive anymore. She approached the subject in a very kind way, and we both agreed that this is a bit of a strange one. She doesn't want me to start being unhealthy again to make her happy, but she's struggling to deal with the transformation. Many people I haven't seen in a few years fail to recognize me at first. It's strange to me too. It has been a positive transformation in an objective sense, but this is a negative consequence that I'm not sure how to approach. I love this lifestyle. I was always tired and lazy before. Now I always feel good inside, and training gives my mood a huge positive boost. Even though I knew she liked the nerdy dad bod, it never occurred to me that this change would be something she didn't like. I'm not sure the best approach to take here. We've talked about it, but didn't reach a conclusion and aren't sure where to take it next. Edit. Just to clarify, we didn't have any sort of argument. It was just a chat. She's upset that she looks at me sometimes and doesn't see my cute face anymore, and instead sees someone else. The transformation has been rapid, so I get it. She said very strongly that she doesn't want me to change back, as she knows I'm a much better lifestyle now, but she misses the old me and is struggling with it. I just don't know how to approach it. I don't want her to be sad, but I don't know how to fix it. It may also at least partially be due to the lifestyle. I know she is focused on appearance, but does your fitness mean a change to your lifestyle together? Are you avoiding meals you two used to share? Has the way you spend time together changed? Maybe focusing more on fitness-related activities like hiking or whatever, and less on sedentary activities like watching a movie. I also wonder what her personality is like. If she herself is nerdy and soft around the edges, she may have always avoided the more traditionally masculine-looking guys she dated because, well, especially in high school, those guys could be jerks. She may subconsciously be bracing for that behavior from you, even though logically she knows it's not going to happen. If she was bullied or had a hard time, could there be something to that? OP. The high school part is most definitely true. She struggled a lot in high school with the pretty boys, as she called them. There's a certain look this type of guy falls into that I've started to take on, and that may well be it. I think this might be a good thing to bring up with her. In this case, the appearance of those guys was more of a warning that these guys are going to be mean. She knows me and knows I'm not mean, but maybe is afraid my personality could change too. Gonna be a hard one to reassure her if it's from her past. As for lifestyle, she was going to the gym long before me, visits a personal trainer, etc., but she never took it as serious as I do. I've always been someone who has too much enthusiasm, and when I start and fully commit to something, I go all out. This may be a sticking point too, but I feel it's positive and worth adjusting to. The skipping meals part is 100% true. I have one cheat day a week where I'll have pizza or something unhealthy. Before, every day was a cheat day. This wasn't good though, but I miss it too. Eating junk food every day was very nice, but it's very unhealthy too. This is another good point that you've made that I also think is a positive change that may not be one worth undoing. I think there's a lot of impact some small changes can make. 1. She might need a little extra reassurance, as you noted on the fact your personality won't change with your body. If she was open to it, a few sessions with a counselor could help her overcome that insecurity. 2. Your intensity in committing to the gym may make her fear that your commitment to her will suffer, exacerbating her fears in point 1. Setting aside quality time each week, no phone dates, where you two are actively focused on each other can help. And finally, you can still bond over food and eating together, just change the recipes. The key is not to skip meals together, it's to change the type of meal. People here are being a bit too kind and charitable to your girlfriend. She's telling you that your healthy habits are making you unattractive. That's terrible, and she needs to get help about this. If you reverse the genders, people would be trashing the partner for having a weird attraction for objectively unhealthy behavior. Thank you for finally giving a sensible reply. I can't believe the Redditors here are ignoring how dark this is. At best, girlfriend is just very insecure. The notion that OP has suddenly gained massive muscles to the point of being less attractive is ludicrous. Those types of gains take 5+ years. OP. I mentioned this in another comment too. Whenever a man says he no longer finds a woman attractive after she has changed physically, he would be called shallow. I do see where she's coming from though, so I don't feel she's wrong, but it is a double standard. Sounds like you put on a lot of muscle, and I totally understand her. It's not strange to find too much muscle unattractive. Gaining too much muscle is not less unhealthy than gaining too much fat, but you are just a different person and certainly not just in body. Nobody can gain lots of muscles that quickly unless they're on something. Gaining muscle takes a long time, years and years. And no, gaining too much muscle is not remotely as unhealthy as too much fat. In fact, it's much healthier than not performing resistance training since people naturally lose muscle over time. Gaining too much muscle is unhealthy as gaining too much fat. Sometimes you can really tell these Reddit people have never stepped foot in a gym. That commenter probably thinks Arnold was all natty bra. Fiancé is having an affair with my best friend of over 2 decades. I, female 23, just found out my fiancé, male 23, is cheating on me with my best friend who I've known since we were in diapers. Today I left for a trip to attend a business meeting, and 2 hours later, my sister sent me a video of my fiancé and best friend making out outside Starbucks. I'm absolutely heartbroken, and I have no idea how to process this. We were together for 3 years, and our wedding is in 2 months, and this girl has been by my side since birth. I don't have memories without her. I'm trying to explain the pain I feel right now, but I can't. How am I supposed to express this crap? I've gone over my relationship and my friendship a million times this past 3 hours, and I just can't understand. I also didn't get how you can backstab someone who's paying for your college, rent, and car. Her parents couldn't afford it, so I've been financially supporting her for the last 3 years. And him? He lives in my apartment free of charge because I wanted him to save his paychecks so he can start his own business like he's always wanted to. I'm doing 90% of the chores because I wanted him to relax after work, and I'm 100% responsible for our 4 dogs. Plus, I've been paying his mom's mortgage for a year. I'm so stupid. How could I be so stupid? We never had any fights, and until now, I was under the impression we were happy. I mean, he made me breakfast every morning and always made sure to tell me how happy and lucky he feels to have me in his life and how he can't imagine not being with me. This man has been sending me I love you texts every darn hour. I don't get how he can do this. And with my best friend out of all people, how can she do this? It's not like it's some random girl that didn't know he has a girlfriend. It's my best friend. She's been helping me plan the wedding, all while having an affair with my future husband. I'm supposed to drive back home right now, but I'm sitting in my car at a gas station crying and asking myself what's going on. I'm physically in pain. I'm confused. I'm in shock. I'm writing this, hoping it will help get it out, so I can think about my next move and drive home safely. I'm sorry if this is a mess, but I'm a mess right now. Any advice on how I should navigate this? Edit. I'm going to stay at a hotel until I'm calmed down so I can drive home. Update. I've been talking to lawyers for hours, and we're making sure my soon-to-be ex does not have a right to my place, because apparently he's lived with me so long that he could file a claim. Also, I've canceled all payments that aren't for me. That was a bit tricky and took a long time, but it's done. I've moved all the money from our shared account into my personal account, and the bank reassured me that if any of them calls, the bank cannot give out any info because it's in my name. I did, however, take precautions and texted them that the bank called me and froze the account by mistake, so they know they can't use it. I've done so many things this morning that I can't even remember it all, but I read the majority of your comments. Now I'm at my sister's typing this. My sister and a couple of her friends went over and cleaned the apartment of everything that was his, except for the things I got him, and they're currently in trash bags outside. My sister's boyfriend's dad was nice enough to change the locks. I'm not going back there. I'm going to rent an apartment until this settles down, and then I'm going to sell the apartment and buy a house because my dogs deserve a backyard. I also have security cameras, so if he shows up or tries anything, I'll know. Now, after I've calmed down, I decided I want to be petty, so I'm going to report the car as stolen, considering it's only in my name. I'm going to go over to his mom's and talk to her in person because she's honestly been nothing but great, and I do feel bad about just ghosting her. So I'll go talk to her after I'm done updating you guys. I'm not planning on confronting any of them because I think that will only disturb me more. We have a group chat with everyone at the wedding, and I'm planning on just sending the videos in the chat. My lawyer and I are also going over all of my conversations with them, looking for any messages where they said that they would pay me back for something, thanks to the person that suggested this, and I think you'll be very happy to know that I have proof of her saying she will pay me back for her college expenses. Yay! I talked to his mom, and she was shocked when I told her. She told me she's going to cut him off, and he can take his cheating self to his cheating dad. I don't know if she's actually going to cut him off, but that's what she said. We cried together, and she kept apologizing. I sent the video of them making out in the wedding group chat, and then I blocked their numbers. I have no desire to speak to either of them ever again. I did report the car as stolen, and she got arrested. I'm almost done with the wedding cancellation. I'm not getting too much back since the wedding was so close. I'm going to finally get some sleep now. Update. I'm not getting my money back on the venue. I will keep the reservation and have a party. Most of the guests took time off work and made arrangements to come for the wedding already, so we will have a party. I'm going to take my sister and a couple of my friends on the honeymoon trip and make it a girls' vacation. Most of my ex's family and friends shunned him after seeing the video, and they've reached out to apologize for what he did. My ex-best friend's family is not speaking to her either. I've also found out today from my ex's cousin, who knew about the affair, that my ex quit his job around the same time he moved in, so unfortunately for him, he doesn't have any savings. I don't know what he did in the time I thought he was working, but my guess is that he was with his mistress. My ex showed up to my apartment, and he left after my neighbor said she'll call the cops. I don't know or care where he is. I blocked him after I sent the video. I'm going to move to a different city. I've been looking at houses, and I think I found the perfect one. I need to make some arrangements to move from my office to working from home, but I'm actually excited. I found a therapist in the city I want to move, and I can't wait to have my first session. I don't know if or when I'm going to update this, but I really want to thank all of you for your help and support. Karen blames me for her low salary as a teacher. My husband and I, both in our late 50s, have 3 lovely kids. James, who's 34, Maggie, who's 33, and June, who's 32. My husband is a lawyer, and I've been a paralegal since my last child graduated, so we make a good living. James is also a lawyer, same firm as his dad, and Maggie is now in law school after being a part-time paralegal while her 2 kids were younger. Her husband is in engineering and does quite well. I'm not trying to brag, but we all do quite well, and it's relevant to this posting. June is an elementary school teacher, and her husband manages a restaurant. They are both very hard workers, and I'm so proud of June for doing well at a very hard and vastly underpaid job. However, she's always jealous and complaining about how hard she has it. She's complained we have a cabin up in UP, Michigan, and she's got a starter home that we gave her money for. She's complained about her sister having nice clothes, her brother's house at the lake, her husband having loans for his masters, us having nice cars, you name it. She constantly complains about everything. Every time she comes over, she says things like, "Must be nice to go on vacation. Must be nice to get new furniture," etc. Last night, she started again, complaining that she can't afford to go to the UP house, and it must be nice to be able to afford gas and still be able to wear fancy clothes. I snapped. I told her her constant complaining was getting old. We gave her the same help with her college and grad school as her siblings, and she knew when she chose her career what the salary was. I told her I'm very proud of her, but she knew what she was getting into, and this attitude makes her family not want her around. She was furious and left, screaming that her siblings are golden kids and that she was just as good. I tried to tell her that wasn't true, but she wouldn't let me get a word in. She won't talk to me now, but she called her sister, who was quite put out by the whole thing, but on my side. My husband, however, said I should have just let it go, and my mother is very upset and is acting like I did something terrible. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Why should everyone feel guilty for having disposable income? June could still choose a different career. My brother-in-law was a teacher and he hated it. Now he tutors kids in high school math. He works a couple of hours a day and makes more than he did teaching. He picked up a job lifeguarding in the summers when the kids aren't in school, and he just stayed on. So now he has a full-time job with the city with great benefits, and he works as a tutor at night. So now he's doing pretty well financially, and he's pretty happy. The point is, June can probably figure out a way to make more money. I hope she doesn't have kids if she's already bitter about money. Why did her hub need a master's to manage a restaurant? Anyway, June's incessant complaining is annoying. P.S. Whenever anyone says, "must be nice," the best possible response is, "yes, it is. It really, really is." Am I the jerk? My husband accused me of financial infidelity. Husband, 33 male, and I, 33 female, have been together for 10 years, together since college. Since starting out, we have made financial security a priority and have been able to achieve that, albeit with some good luck along the way. We both have good jobs, paying close to $200,000 each. Student loans were paid off within a few years. We both went to state schools with scholarships, so didn't have a lot of debt to begin with. We live in a house that I inherited from my grandmother, no mortgage, and we don't have any credit card debt. We maxed out our 401ks and currently have 18 months of expenses in our emergency fund and are still adding to it. Our cars are both paid off and should be good for another 5+ years, and we don't have any credit card debt. We manage our finances in a hybrid manner, joint accounts for bills and savings, and separate accounts for our fund money. We each get a pretty generous monthly allotment. The fund money is strictly for our individual expenses, hobbies, clothes, outings with friends, etc., and not for things like date nights, vacations, or larger joint purchases like household appliances and repairs, which come out of our joint account. We also agreed that if either of us gets any bonuses or has any side hustle income, those will go into our individual fund money accounts, unless the funds are needed for a larger expense, such as a major home repair. In terms of the fund money, my husband is much more of a spender than I am due to his expensive hobbies, in particular golf and collecting sports memorabilia, and he's also more into designer clothes, which is fine, it's his fun money. On the other hand, my hobbies are a lot less expensive: running, working out, reading, baking. In general, I'm more introverted, and a great time for me is tea with a friend at one of our homes with homemade pastries. I've also been getting back into gaming lately after setting it aside for much of the past decade while building my career. After realizing I had more than enough in my fun money account, I decided to overhaul my gaming setup and got myself a new PC, desk, and gaming chair, total cost of about $5,000. However, upon hearing about the purchase, my husband was furious. He says he had no idea I had saved so much money and that I should have consulted him before spending $5,000. I asked what difference it made if it was my own accrued fund money and not from our joint funds, and he insisted that my accumulating this amount without telling him was a form of financial infidelity. He says that he lost trust in me and doesn't know what else I might be hiding. He's demanding that I return the items I purchased and deposit most of the funds to our joint account. He wants to make a new rule that fund money accounts can't accumulate more than $2,000 and that any excess goes back to the joint account, a rule that would obviously favor him as a person who spends most of his allotment each month instead of saving up for anything bigger. I feel like I'm being punished for being more of a day-to-day saver than spender. It wouldn't occur to me to demand to know how much money my husband has in his fund money account or to try to micromanage what he spends it on. I wasn't hiding anything deliberately. He never asked about it until after I made the purchase. Still, maybe I should have been more transparent about my plans. So, am I the jerk? Info. Husband and I each have our own office in the house, so it's not like the gaming setup was going in a space he uses. I don't usually game when my husband is home unless he's already busy doing something else. My biggest block of gaming time is typically when he's off playing golf. Also, I run 40 to 50 miles a week, so it's not like I'm generally sedentary. I can't think of a good reason why he would object to me gaming or have a nice gaming setup in my own space of the house. Edit. I actually had and have a lot more than $5,000 saved. We have had this arrangement for a few years, and I typically only spend about $500 of my allotted $1,500 a month. Maybe a bit more some months if I need to replace my running shoes, buy other clothes, or have any outings with friends planned, like concerts, but in that range. Girl, what does he contribute to your household? Although our incomes are about equal, I work shorter hours at home, with occasional in-office days or business travel, and he works long hours in the office, plus an hour of commuting time each way. Perhaps because I'm home all the time, having a very tidy home and fresh cooked meals is a priority for me. I primarily do these things for me and not for him, even though he benefits as well. I'd still have to cook and clean if I were living in the house by myself, unless I wanted to hire someone to do those things. But I don't, as I genuinely enjoy cooking and doing housework. We do have breakfast together most days, unless he has to leave early, dinner together most days, and weekend date and activity time in addition to pursuing our own hobbies. He's smart, hilarious, and a delightful companion, at least other than this latest issue. I realize I haven't emphasized the positives in this thread because I've been pretty upset, but other than this, he has been a great partner and husband. Together, we have a joint savings account of $250,000, plus retirement savings approaching the 7-figure mark. Could he be hiding a debt or gambling addiction? I manage all of our bank accounts and check them daily, and also handle all the bill pay. Nothing suspicious so far. He admits he's not great with money and would spend more without a budget. Update, 8 days later. My husband finally calmed down enough to have a conversation with me. As many others who provided comments suggested, it wasn't really about the money, but a window into larger issues in our relationship. Essentially, my husband has been feeling increasingly unhappy with me for a while for the following reasons. In general, he feels that he's a lot more committed to his career development than I am to mine. It's true that although we currently have about the same income, the ceiling for his field, finance, is a lot higher than the one for mine, tech and software dev. He's currently in an executive training program, and I'm decidedly not. He's feeling resentful that he's having to work long hours in a high-pressure environment while I get to work primarily at home, doing something that is fun and fairly easy for me, and I'm not stretching myself to do more. He's concerned that over time, these resentments are going to build and that I'm not going to end up pulling my weight financially if he takes huge leaps in his career and I don't. He remarked that, since getting back into gaming a few months ago, I've been putting a bit less effort into cooking. I do nearly all of the cooking because I work at home and have an easier schedule. It's true that I have been fixing simpler meals, things like grilled chicken salads or chili with cornbread, instead of elaborate meals with fussier foods and several sides. He also has noticed that I haven't been doing the elaborate table settings I used to, with flowers on the table, fancy placements, etc. Honestly, I didn't realize he noticed or cared about this, but apparently he does. Acts of service are one of his main love languages, so overall he's feeling a little neglected because of this. He also feels I'm not putting enough effort into my appearance. Not in terms of weight or body, I'm a long-distance runner and I'm slim, but in terms of things like clothes, hair, etc. It's true that I've never paid much attention to these things, given that I work at home in tech. The standard for appearances is extremely low, and I far exceed that. I tend to buy simple, practical clothes at places like Target and Walmart, don't wear much makeup, and keep my hair in a simple ponytail. I do glam up a lot for date nights and other dressy occasions, but most days he comes home from work to find me in a t-shirt and yoga pants with no makeup, and he wants me to make more of an effort. The bottom line is that because of all these things, he started to notice other women. Says he hasn't cheated, he's just noticing other people because he's regularly disappointed in me. In particular, given that he works in finance, there are a good number of very career-oriented type A women who manage to have fantastic bodies, be effortlessly polished and glam, and have more interesting hobbies. He also says he feels horrible about all of this because he knows I'm a good person and that he's being judgmental. That it's not so much I've changed, as this is his own goals and expectations which have changed in the past couple of years. The financial infidelity part came into it because he feels I'm not really investing myself in our relationship, thus cheating on our future in a sense. He also says he loves me enough to be honest. I do believe he isn't trying to be hurtful. I really had to drag all of this out of him. That he doesn't want us to drift apart further, that he doesn't want to be angry and resentful, and he knows he's asking for a lot. I know many on this sub will tell me to just tell him to take a hike and call my lawyer, but we've been married for 10 years, have invested a lot in the relationship, and I want to see if the marriage can be saved. So a couple things. First, we did make an appointment with a marriage counselor and start next week. Also, I'm going to try to do at least some of the above. I'm not sure about making myself be more professionally ambitious when I'm already happy with my work-life balance and we're already financially comfortable, but I can at least try doing some of the other things. Return to spending more time on cooking and decor, and fix myself up a bit when he's on his way home from work. Now that I know that they're important to him, I also know that in the end, I may feel like I'm just tiptoeing around and contorting myself to please him, but it won't cost me much, certainly much less than a divorce, to try for a month or two and see how we both feel. And I know I would always regret it if I didn't try. So maybe not the update you were expecting or hoping for, but that's where things are. And if folks continue to be interested, I can update you again. Update. So the more I thought about it, the more his requests and demands really were sitting poorly with me. I decided to try a little experiment over the weekend to see what would happen if I tried to meet some of his demands. Not because I actually thought they were reasonable, but because I increasingly had the sense that the goalposts would just keep moving and that I was playing a losing game. So Saturday morning, I went to the salon for a glow-up. Haircut, fresh highlights, manicure and pedicure, then went to the farmer's market to pick up fresh flowers for our table and assorted other gourmet ingredients. Saturday is usually our date night out, but I suggested we stay in so I could make us a special dinner, steakhouse style. Lobster, bread basket with several types of rolls, savory muffins made from scratch, crab stuffed mushrooms, all kinds of stuff. I wore a lavender, his favorite color, on me, sheathed dress and high heels, and fully did hair and makeup. For all of that, I got a lukewarm, "Thanks, it was tasty," and a kiss on the cheek. Of course, I did all of the serving and cleanup too. Sunday, we usually go out, but he suggested I make us brunch at home. So I made French press coffee, mimosas with fresh squeezed orange juice, Belgian waffles with banana Foster topping, and a lot more stuff too. I wore a blue sleeveless sundress, wedge sandals, again did my hair and makeup. Again I got a, "Thanks, it's good," and no help with serving or cleaning. Afterwards, I asked if this was what he had in mind when he critiqued me before. He said that it was a start, but that I was acting very entitled for wanting credit for basic adulting. He then dropped a bomb that he was being so hard on me because he had realized lately I had a lot to make up for since I wasn't up to his standards. What? He then went on to say that because I'm not up to his standards, I was going to need to be making it up to him for the rest of my life. That I was lucky that anyone at all wanted to marry me, and that he's connected with someone from work, so if I wanted to keep him, I'd better step up. I told him it didn't sound like there was anything to keep if he no longer loved me, or even liked or respected me. Told him to leave, and he said he would gladly go to his girlfriend's place. I know so many people were insisting that he was having an affair, and I just didn't want to see it. That his complaints were really all a part of a campaign to distance himself from me. I feel so foolish for just thinking he was going through a stressful time at work, or that he genuinely wanted to work on our marriage. Anyway, I've taken the week off from work to get my head together. Have an appointment with a lawyer tomorrow. Canceled the marriage counseling appointment, but got a referral to an individual therapist who can do an intake session with me later in the week. He, and the girlfriend apparently, are coming over this evening to get more of his clothes and things, so I have to brace myself for that. I know the divorce won't be fun or easy, but I will be okay. Thank you all for helping me see that I was being played before. I wasted too much more time in a marriage that was already over. Yes, he admitted he had been having an affair for several months. He kept trying to say, "It doesn't really count as cheating, because I'm not up to his standards." Wait, they're in their early 30s, have close to $1 million saved for retirement, plus another $250,000, no debt, and she enjoys her job while also making quite a healthy salary? He's worried she won't pull her financial weight? What on earth? How many yachts does this bozo need to water ski behind? Honey, you seem comfortable and happy. That makes me angry, and I might end up cheating if you don't abandon all that comfort to do whatever I want you to do, because my comfort and happiness are all that really matters. I'm glad that my wife's ex cheated on her. I know the title sounds bizarre, but hear me out. My wife and I used to be neighbors. I was working as an electrician at that time. I saw her the day she moved in. She looked really sad and lonely. I decided to help her move in because there was no one to do that for her. From then, we used to bump into each other a lot. I wanted to speak more to her, but she never seemed interested in me. One day, I saw her crying in front of the stairs. She looked really devastated. From there, I got to know her story. She has dealt with a lot of health issues. She had multiple cysts that she had to go in for operations. She was also suffering from PCOS, which actually affected her fertility. She used to be married to a man, but he cheated on her with her best friend and got her pregnant. Then he kicked her out and divorced her. I sat there with her because I know she needed a real friend. I wasn't really expecting anything in return. We got closer and closer, and I finally grew some courage to ask her out. I didn't care if she could give me kids or not. I just wanted to be with her because she's an awesome lady and life wasn't fair towards her. We dated for a few years and then got married. She has been my rock. I wanted to go back to school and finish my diploma, and she has supported me through it. I always tell her that I'm really lucky to have her in my life. I never knew what family felt like until I married her. I grew up in a horrible family. It took me years of therapy to cope with it. But with her, I feel like I have found peace in life. I love her so much that words are not enough to express it. Now, as I'm writing this, she's sleeping on my lap while she was watching a Barbie marathon. I know one other thing about her. It's that she is pregnant and hasn't told me. The only reason I know is because I found her planner, then I borrowed her laptop for something. I opened it and discovered she has planned to tell me about the pregnancy 3 days later on our wedding anniversary. Can't say I haven't noticed it yet. I have observed some signs. She also throws up in the morning. I won't spoil the surprise for her. I know it makes me sound like a bad person, but in a way, I'm glad her husband cheated on her. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had this angel in my life. I mean, think about it. If her husband hasn't cheated on her and left her, we would probably never have met, and I'd be trying to go through life helpless, trying to cope with loneliness. I'm glad it happened. I'm sure she feels that way too, just not the way I do. If I ever encounter her husband, I'll probably punch him first, then hug him and say, "Thank you and forget you, you jerk." Update. So today she came home from work. She looked really worried. I thought she would be happy because tomorrow is our anniversary. We have plans, and usually she's excited and always talks about what she can do. I asked her how her day went, and she cried. I was scared. I was scared for us and our baby. She told me she's been keeping a secret from me, and she wanted to tell me on our anniversary. I didn't tell her that I already knew. She told me she was pregnant. She has known about this for 2 weeks, and she is now 8 weeks pregnant. She noticed some changes and took a test. She didn't want to tell me early because she was afraid of what could happen. Years ago, when she was with her ex-husband, she lost 2 in around 6 weeks. She was afraid that could happen again, and she didn't want to disappoint me. She thought if she lost it, only she would know and it wouldn't affect me. But when she reached up to 8 weeks, she decided to tell me. But she went to the doctor today, taking a half day from work. The doctor told her that she's still at risk. That's why she was afraid. She said she can't keep it a secret. Her plan was ruined because of it, and so she is telling me this early. I tried to calm her down. I told her if she stresses about it, it will not be good to either you or the baby. We can only hope for the best. No matter what happens, I will be with her throughout this journey. She asked me if I had known about this. I told her yes, I did. She smiled and said she figured it out because last few days I've been touching her belly a lot. We are still planning on the reveal. I might as well act surprised even though it was spoiled by me. Am I tensed? Yes, because it's obviously a complicated pregnancy. But we can hope for the best, and both my baby and my wife will be safe. The doctor said since she's in her mid-30s, there could be other complications as well. We might get a second opinion on it soon, but for now, we are enjoying our years together. Am I the jerk for installing a doorknob with a lock on my bedroom door after I got fed up with people barging in one too many times? I, 21 male, am home for the summer from college. Much of my time I've been playing video games with friends and hunting for achievements after having been unable to do so thanks to previous workloads. But I also am doing some studying in between along with helping around the house when asked and looking for summer work. No matter how many times I make it abundantly clear, my family still won't respect my boundaries. One important one is my bedroom. Even though I've said that a closed door is a very visible boundary, my parents, younger brother, and older sister, when she comes to visit, often just turn open the doorknob and barge in to ask or tell me about some pretty mundane stuff most of the time. It's mildly understandable with a slightly ajar or fully open door, but it's summertime, and in the late evenings, we let in some cool air. But if they knock and I don't respond because I have my AirPods in, then they just barge in anyway. My younger brother is the worst of the bunch. He oftentimes goes into my room to tell me about a mundane story about what happened in high school with his friends, and it's tiring having to remind him for the billionth time that I simply am not interested. Sometimes when I was away at college, he would go into my room and use something like a notebook I was keeping for notes or my cardioid mic for a therapy session without even asking me on the phone. He doesn't even put it back when he's done, and I'm tired of literally yelling at him to stay out of my room and not touch my stuff, because I don't do that to him. A couple of days ago, my brother barged into my room to simply hand me a snack I didn't even ask for whilst I was playing my game. My door was closed, and I didn't even realize he was there, and I again told him, "Don't randomly barge into my room." Then yesterday we had a family gathering, and my brother proceeded to tell people about the mods that he had seen me using on my game to try to embarrass me. It was some pretty juicy stuff. I made up a story on the spot about how I had accidentally joined the game, which I also told my parents when they asked me about it, and when my brother insisted otherwise, I essentially had to gaslight him into thinking he massively misremembered things. After that, I decided that I had had it. I hauled myself to the bus, went to Lowe's, bought myself a doorknob lock, and swapped it out myself. Earlier today, I had locked my door and later heard it jiggle, then some knocks. It was my brother, and I told him that thanks to him, I had no choice but to install a lock on my door, which he then told my parents about. Dad lectured me about how I don't modify his house without permission, to which I shot back that nobody modifies my privacy without permission, and simply put in my earbuds. Since then, Dad's blocked my devices from Wi-Fi until we discuss logistics of my door lock, and I've been using USB tethering since. Am I going insane here? Not the jerk for your lock. You're an adult and privacy is a reasonable expectation. However, you are a major jerk when it comes to your brother. It's pretty obvious he wants to spend time with you. Telling him you don't care about what he says and getting mad that he brought you a snack? Seriously? Makes you a major one. You mentioned therapy. Man, I hope he isn't struggling and reaching out to you and you're being like this. Karen loses it when I ask if she's pregnant. I'm male, 25. My friend, female, 23, usually goes to the gym regularly and parties a lot. Lately, I've noticed that she stopped drinking entirely, same as smoking, and has stopped lifting heavy and going to the gym as regularly as she used to. On top of that, lately she'll often excuse herself to go to the bathroom, presumably to throw up. And I've noticed that she got a bit thicker and watery. Don't get me wrong, I'm not jabbing her looks, it's just something I've noticed. When we were out the other week and I noticed she hadn't even touched her Red Bull, I pulled her to the other side to have a private conversation and asked her if she's pregnant. She immediately flipped out and denied it. Right after that, she went home and I covered for her when the group asked me why she went home. I texted her later that night asking if I had overstepped, and she simply replies, "You literally called me overweight, jerk." I never did such a thing, but I simply let her be instead of arguing. Today, another friend told me she indeed is pregnant, and I don't know what to make of her reaction towards me when I asked her in a 4-eye conversation. Am I the jerk? Edit. For those curious why I asked her, I verbatim said, "I noticed you've been excusing yourself pretty lately and are avoiding some things. Could it be that you're pregnant?" Edit. Well, this post was a waste of time, except you don't do that, which is most of the replies. There has been little actually useful feedback. Why don't you do that? Why is it not socially acceptable to ask a close friend a normal question in a private setting? It's none of your business. Like, if that's the energy, you could apply that to any question ever. It's a simple yes or no. Are we in the 1950s still? Update. She messaged me and we met up during lunch break. She apologized for overreacting, and I apologized for if my question was intrusive. We came to the conclusion that my question wasn't intrusive, and neither did she overreact. She told me she's 2 months pregnant and didn't think anyone had noticed. She was keeping it a secret, at least to the guy circle of our group, because she was afraid of being called names. That's why she had freaked out when I asked her, and it's also why she tried to deflect. I reassured her that nobody would feel that way, especially not in our group. We are all very supportive and are looking forward to doing our best in helping her out the following months. I also showed her this post, and she had a good laugh at some of the way overboard "you're the jerk" comments, especially the one that called me a creep. To be fair, she also said many of them put forward valid points, but that they are in most cases concerning strangers and not close friends you've shared big things with before. Babysitting means paying your kids' dental bills? Years ago, I would often babysit my neighbor's daughter who was about 9. He was a divorced father with the kind of an ex that would send spreadsheets of child-rearing expenses calculated to the penny and weekly invoices complete with terms and penalties of her own choosing for late payments. He paid big child support and generally paid her invoices on time because she would cut off access to kiddo if he didn't. His ex, the snake, and I had basic text messaging contact. She and I had a previous dust-up because a sudden weather change necessitated a jacket for kiddo. We popped into the nearest discount store and I let her pick a jacket. Kiddo loved it, but her mother threw a giant fit at me because it wasn't brand name. I blew it off and the neighbor and I laughed about it when he reimbursed me. She gave me the silent treatment. Darn. Time moved forward. Father always reimbursed kiddo's expenses and encouraged fun and healthy activities. One day, he called me and apologized that he was getting held up at work and kiddo had an orthodontist appointment. He asked me to take her, I agreed, and he called the dentist to authorize. We got there and they wouldn't see her without a payment, $225. It was necessary. Kiddo's braces were hurting her. Dad wasn't available, but I knew he would reimburse me, so I put it on my credit card rather than calling her snake of a mother. Kiddo got patched up, Dad reimbursed me, I paid the card and didn't use it. A few months later, I got a past due call from my card company, repeat charges from the orthodontist. I let Dad know and called the orthodontist, who told me I signed an automatic payment agreement. I gave my, "Oh no, I'm just the babysitter" speech and didn't get far with them, so I canceled the card. Dad apologized profusely and he reimbursed me. A month later, I get a nasty call from the orthodontist about my card declining. I kindly inform them that I'm not the parent and I provide the snake's phone number. About an hour later, the snake is furiously calling and texting me. I silenced my phone and looked later. She maxed out my voicemail, and all of her text messages were about how wrong it was of me to deny her kid medical care. One voicemail was from the police, letting me know that she filed a complaint, how I could get a copy from my attorney, and inquiring about whether I wanted to counter-complain. I sure did. I moved out of state, and the prosecutor called me once just to ask questions, then I never heard back from the prosecutor. Last I heard from kiddo's grandmother, the snake took a plea bargain. Dad got custody, and Grandma was enjoying a lot more time with kiddo. Am I the jerk for telling my housemate his girlfriend can't stay here anymore? I share an apartment with a friend I've known for years. We're both male 24. We've had this place for over a year and haven't had any real issues. We get along well and do heaps together. He works full-time. I'm a university student, and we split all bills, food, and rent down the middle. We hate the idea of shared houses and just wanted to feel like a home. A few months ago, he started seeing a girl, T, who spends every day and night at our place. T is also a university student and she can't stand her studio apartment. Until recently, I've had no issue with T being here and have never even asked her to pay for anything. She eats all meals at our place and takes food to uni if she needs. The way I see it, housemate and I just buy a bit more food and it really doesn't matter. The other week, I got home from uni, went to the kitchen to make a coffee. I had an assignment I needed to work on, so I wanted to pick me up. And when I opened the fridge, I noticed some Red Bulls. I just assumed my housemate had bought them for us, so I grabbed one and drank it. The next morning at breakfast, T opens the fridge and then got super angry that one of her Red Bulls was missing. I said it was me and that I thought my housemate had bought them. She started telling me how she bought them for herself and how I should have asked and that I needed to apologize for taking it. I was going to tell T that it's my fridge and I shouldn't have to ask if I can have stuff in it, but I didn't want to start conflict, so I just apologized. She demanded I buy her a replacement. Since then, she started labeling any drinks or food she brings for herself and makes a point of saying it's hers. After all this, I've said to my housemate that I don't want her staying at our place unless she's going to start paying rent, paying for bills, and pitching in to pay for food. I don't want to pay for her anymore, just so that she can mistreat me for taking a drink from my own fridge. Am I the jerk? Update. Just to address some of the common things I've been reading, also thanks all, it's nice to see only a few said I'm the jerk. I avoided saying anything at the time because my housemate and I are close to brothers, and I don't want a fight like this to make him have to pick. Honestly, I know he would dump her and stick with me. Housemate is a great guy, and I in no way think that he's trying to use me. When I've had girlfriends stay or we've had mates over, we've just kept to 50-50 as always. Sometimes people buy us food or pitch in as thanks, but we never expect it. He and I act more as family in a house rather than housemates, which is why it's never been an issue. T is very manipulative. As a side story, housemate and I always do a movie night once a week. It's our tradition and we love it. T has said she wants to join us, and then every time, around 30 minutes in, she will whisper something to him or act a certain way and draw him away to go in the other room. Honestly, it's peeved me a tad, as she is clearly just trying to assert some dominance there, but I also joke with the housemate about it. I have laughed at the few comments calling me a pushover, and I can see how it looks like that here. I normally am the first to stand up and react to something and can't stand people being rude. In this situation, it hasn't been an issue until this, and my desire to not cause an issue was less about her, more about not wanting conflict with the housemate. Since I talked to him about her needing to pay or leave, she has spent more time at her own place, but now just comes around and has the ability to destroy the mood in any room. I want them to separate. I think he can't see this lasting either, but she is hot and he doesn't think straight. I spent over $5,000 to embarrass a competitor who treated me like crap. It was totally worth it. So I used to run a small business in the wedding space, and I was very successful in a very short period of time, to the point that I was getting all expense-paid invites to industry conferences less than 6 months after I opened. Needless to say, this ruffled feathers. Enter Kate. Kate is a chief Karen who competes in the same space and has been nothing but awful to me from the moment she became aware that I wasn't just competition, I was doing better business than her. She would complain that I had gotten expenses paid, implied that it was because I was pretty, said that she felt people who had been in the space longer deserved it more, and a statement about how my outfit colors don't look good on me. She also reported my booth for accidentally being less than 3 inches outside our 10x10 slot, and has tried on more than one occasion to have my competing products removed from vendor halls. Needless to say, I despise her. Now, fast forward a little bit into lockdown. I see major issues on the horizon for my business, and so I decided to step out and sell for a pretty penny. Bought a condo, took a job at a nonprofit, and moved along with my life. But some of my friends still in the industry would give me updates or vent, and I was absolutely right to sell. Most everyone doing what I do has already closed, including the person I sold to. Kate, however, was still going strong, though I noticed her prices were really aggressive. My friend then showed me screenshots that Kate had bragged privately about claiming to be unemployed and disabled by using her longtime partner as a cover for her business, then dropping prices below what other sellers could do because she was double dipping. This really made me angry. I have a mobility disability, and I felt horrible for the people she was running out of business by pricing so low. So I, of course, reported her, but nothing seemed to come of that. Then one of the biggest conferences of our local industry came up on my calendar. This conference cost $8,000 to $10,000 to vend at, and many vendors make 50% plus of their yearly income from this one event. My friend runs the vending hall, so I asked her to place me right next to Kate. Now, when I left the industry, I still had great contacts on the manufacturing side because I speak Chinese fairly well. I found the manufacturer for Kate's top-selling items, and I ordered a sizable inventory to take with me to the conference. I priced them at cost and made ginormous signs about inventory liquidation and created these super aggressive bundle deals that made it nearly impossible for her to do any business being right next to me. I could see her over there fuming, and she did try to come over and complain, but our booth was too busy to even entertain her obnoxious huffing and puffing. She closed her shop last week. I lost about $5,000 doing this, but I got a lot of people deals on packages and items that they never thought they could afford for their special day, and it was honestly fun to help people out, especially at her expense. I have known my parents were cheating on each other for years. They found out and got mad at me. When I was 11, I saw my mom kissing one of her coworkers. Since I didn't know what to do or even who to ask, I ended up talking to that coworker. They worked at a sort of family restaurant, so I was there pretty often, and one day I just told him that I knew about their thing and straight up asked what I should do. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I know that he was really nice to me and advised I stay quiet so as to not hurt my father. While it made sense to me, I spent around a year feeling bad for my father whenever I saw mom leave for work or stay there late. Then, one of the days mom stayed for the night at the restaurant, my father brought home another woman. It made me have a sort of epiphany. I started thinking that they knew, and after some very productive internet research, I figured they were simply in an open relationship. As I grew older, I realized this wasn't the case. The two jerks somehow managed to put two and two together after years and noticed I knew, so they started using me to cheat more efficiently. From around my 15th birthday, they started trying to get me to make excuses for each other, ask one of them to go out for the day when they wanted the house alone, and even arrange meetings with their side pieces. They're both some of the stupidest people I've ever met, but they somehow believe that they're geniuses. I think this is what brought them together. They enable each other. But it also meant that they were so busy thinking they were cheating gods to realize the other was doing the same. At some point, I stopped helping them, but I never said anything. It was such a normal thing that it never even crossed my mind telling them. Last year, I started uni and moved away, which meant they had to deal with each other on their own. I figured divorce was coming, didn't expect them to last long without having me around to keep them at peace. You know the way two toddlers have to be kept under adult supervision to make sure they don't, throw each other at upcoming traffic? That was what I had been doing ever since I can remember, stopping them not only from making the other one mad, but also separating them whenever they had a bad idea that the other would enable. I was right. They are going to divorce, and they decided to announce this at a family gathering a couple weeks ago. There was a very funny silence when they said it, and it was broken by them starting to fight and trying to get the other to look bad. My mother was oh so hurt by his cheating, and my father was oh so hurt by hers. I couldn't help but laugh. It was ridiculous. They were acting like complete kids. When I said that, yes, I knew, they both had been doing it for more than 7 years, there was silence. They didn't find this funny. They got so mad at me, started screaming that I ruined their marriage, that they could have worked it out if they had known sooner, that how could I have done this to them, blah, blah, blah. I left and just went to my apartment. I think they only found out about recent cheating, and they might have been mad because outed all those years. Plus, apparently, I've been playing both sides. This 2 weeks since then, I've been receiving calls from everyone in my family. A lot of them are just puzzled my parents would do that. Others know them and are telling me that they're sorry for me. It seems unanimous, though, that I'm a jerk for not saying anything earlier. Personally, I just think that they deserved it. You're telling me that they could peacefully cheat but not be cheated on? It's wild. They're both jerks in many ways, and they're perfect for each other. The fact that they got divorced the moment they knew about the other cheating just proves me right. They wanted it to be hidden. They wanted it to be behind the other's back. Not one single other person in this world deserves to deal with either of these two. They need to stick together to keep them from hurting others. I don't really know what to do. They haven't talked to me at all in these past 2 weeks. The only contact we've had has been through other people. I've never spent this long without talking to either of them. Update. Let's start this by thanking everyone for the support and comments. Most of them gave me so much courage to just step away from the situation. The ones that didn't were those that mentioned how different I was from my parents or how glad they were I didn't turn out like them. Those comments made me feel guilty because I might actually be just like them. Not in the cheating way, that's horrible, but in the manipulative jerk way. So actually getting to what happened, I went on ignoring everything for a couple of days. It's exam season after all. I wanted to take full advice from here. I just didn't know who I could talk to about this in real life. But on Friday, I was talking to a professor and mentioned all of this. She told me that I should look into possibly taking them to court for psychological damages and that sort of thing. That same day, I got an email from my dad's lawyer requesting a DNA test. The cousin I've kept in contact with all this time told me that my dear mother admitted to cheating before I was born, so I may not even be my father's kid. Honestly, I don't give a hoot. In fact, I've been looking into changing my full name and transferring to another uni far away from here, so I didn't care. But coupled with my professor's idea, it made me realize something. I could do them over a little bit. A lot of people think revenge is stupid. I think it's only that way if you let it consume you. I spent a night awake planning this, but it ended up being so easy. I replied to the email from the lawyer, but not to him. I replied to a joint account my parents had, told them how I didn't see them as my parents, regardless of biological bonds, so I would not be taking the test, how I was waiting for their divorce, how much better it'd be like that. It just went on. I know they read it because I got responses from both of their lawyers. It made me so mad that even after reading all of that, they still didn't talk to me. Then on Saturday evening, I had lunch with my uncle, Mom's brother and Dad's best friend, and his wife. They were supposed to be on my side. They were the ones who told me they were sorry for me. I told them about how I planned on taking my parents to court so that they would have to at least still pay for the rest of my degree, but I also told Auntie how I was planning on posting about all they had done. I asked them not to tell my parents and confessed how I had been planning their divorce so that I could get money on advance without waiting for either of them to pass. It almost made me sick saying all this stuff, but it worked. Not even a day later, and the entire family was turning against me. Even my cousin seemed a bit put off, but she lives for the drama, I guess, so she still talked to me. A family full of rats, not a single trustworthy soul. I mostly confirmed it to some of the people who talked to me, telling them about how I really wanted the money and couldn't care less about my parents. I was contacted by the lawyer, now apparently their lawyer, and with the help of my professor, we crafted a contract where they would give me, right now, enough to finish my education. It was way more than just enough, but I wanted it to be as bad as possible. We wouldn't have contact again, and I would give up the right to sue them for this reason in the future. It took them days to announce they'd be renewing their vows. Now this time, without a devil by their side. They said that they could work through anything if they had each other. They have each other, but they don't have me anymore. That's the curse they're disguising as a blessing. I know for a fact they won't divorce now. They already tarnished their little perfect reputation by publicly admitting that they cheated, but they messed with their own egos by going back on their word and not actually divorcing. There's not a single possibility now that they admit they were wrong again. They cursed each other when they met. They passed the curse on to me, and now they took it back. They are, once again, getting stuck in a loveless marriage that's filled with hate and resentment. But this time around, they don't have a middleman. They're going to make themselves miserable, and I'm so happy about it. Sure, they may have taken away my childhood from me with their crap, but I sure feel like one now, watching with glee as the two people I resent the most bind themselves to one another permanently. The best part is knowing that if they were at any point even remotely decent people, they could so easily get out of this. But no, they never will, because they'd rather rot in that misery than admit they messed up. They got exactly what they wanted. They're the victims, the poor souls who were so in love that they couldn't see through it. It's perfect. At this point, it's too late for them to do anything. Even if they do realize what I did, what are they gonna do? Admit they're not the victims? That I played up how bad I was to make them look better? That there's no real love there? No, they won't. They will not realize, because right now they're riding the high of getting what they wanted, and by the time it fades away, they'll be like two bulls in a pit, too busy fighting to think about anything else. If they ever do realize, they won't tell. Why would they? Who would even believe it when all I've done is try to prove them right? As for me, my professor has been a lifesaver. She helped me gather the paperwork I needed to transfer to another uni and got me in contact with the amazing lawyer who helped me write the contract. I needed it to be a contract. If we had gone to court over this, I would have had to deal with these jerks for so much longer. On top of that, well, a contract that seems entirely made by me makes me look so much worse than a decision made by a judge. Right now I'm trying to focus on passing all my finals, but I'll update again if I happen to be wrong and they do divorce. I'm sorry to those who assumed I wasn't like them. I wanted them to suffer the way I did, and I truly believe dealing with each other or having to admit they were wrong is the worst suffering I could inflict on them. So yeah, I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. How can I, male 33, comfort my wife who's 27 and her depression after she fell for a scam and spent $25,000? My wife of 8 years fell victim to a scam, in which she sent roughly $25,000 to a scammer who promised to transfer $10 million to her so that she could help people in Africa. So it was well intended, but did not seek my counsel initially. After she sent $6,000, she then approached me and I pointed out the red flags in the story. She prayed about it and felt that God told her it was the right thing to do. This became a point of contention in our marriage for the past 3 months. She opened and maxed out 2 credit cards to keep it from me. She never lied to me about it when I asked her, but certainly avoided telling me the whole truth. This bled into our normal lives as well. She used to call and text me about her days and things she has questions about. She's withdrawn from me, except for the day-to-day items needed to keep the family running. I feel similar to having been cheated on, just more of a financial affair. I obviously have trust issues when it comes to money with her. I've opened separate accounts and taken her name off my credit cards. There isn't anything left of our savings, including our emergency savings. I've cut my spending back tremendously. I used to go out to eat twice a week and bring food from home the other 3 days. I now only bring food from home. I haven't bought a new video game in the last 3 months. This has impacted my life and limited what I can do. I understand that she is who I married, and I have no interest in divorce. I accept this hardship that she brought upon us. I just want to move beyond this and grow back together. This brings me to the point that I am writing for advice about. She told the scammer she isn't sending any more money. They're still in communication, but the scam is starting to fall apart. My wife is becoming more and more depressed as it does. She says this gave her a lot of purpose in her life. I want to comfort her and do whatever I can to bring her out of her depression. I know that time will be my best friend, but I know that I can do things to help. But I'm still angry at her for spending our entire savings and racking up credit card debt. How can I comfort her without condoning her actions? Edit. Thank you to the very few of you that actually offered objective advice on her depression. To the rest of you, shame on you. Wait, she's still communicating with the scammer? Is she insane, or are you? One of you has to be in order to let this situation continue. Look, the behavior has to stop before forgiveness and comforting can stop. You've just avoided the conflict by restricting her access to what little money you have left, but that's not good enough. You need to actually get through to her and talk this out, or it will happen again. Surprised no one else had pointed this out yet. Why on earth did she think it was okay to spend $25,000 without asking you in the first place? Forget the scam for a second. She made a life-changing financial decision behind your back. That's messed up on so many levels, no matter what it is. If divorce isn't on the table, she absolutely needs counseling. This is the type of reckless behavior that leads to, I bought you a new car for Christmas. Yeah, surprise. The whole thing is on loan in our names. Isn't that awesome? Only $900 a month for 72 months. Absolutely seen this happen, especially with credit cards. Did she send the money directly from the credit cards? If so, can't you dispute the charge and do a back charge on it, especially if it was done fraudulently? Is she still in contact with the scammer? Have you contacted the authorities? Both of you should seek therapy. Her depression likely was there before this scam, and you need to find out the source of her depression if you want to improve your marriage. My husband ditched us to go see the Grateful Dead, and I'm done. My husband is a deadhead. His entire identity is built around this band, and he's seen them in their various incarnations over 50 times. Normally, I don't mind, but 2 years ago, I was in an accident that left me unable to work. I now receive a tiny disability check once a month for it. He works, but it hasn't been easy with the cost of everything skyrocketing. My disability check doesn't even cover the full cost of our rent, even though our rent is the lowest in our area. Long story short, Dead & Company is made up of what remains of the Grateful Dead, and this is supposed to be their last tour. We live on the East Coast, where he's already seen them twice, which was already more than we can afford. But a few days ago, he took out a loan and bought tickets to go see their final show in San Francisco, along with round-trip air and hotel for whatever else he needs out there. Me and the kids are left with $10, some pocket change, and what feels like a very big forget you. School starts back in a month, and the kids both need school supplies and clothes. I could name 1,000 things that we need, things that we're going without while money is tight, but this is what he chose to do. We're not going to starve over the weekend, but I don't even have enough money to go get them a pizza while their dad is having a blast on the other side of the country and hanging out with some of his online deadhead fam. I understand that this band means a lot to him, and I tried to be supportive of that, but I feel like he's crossed a line here. He refused to talk about how much all of this is costing us, but when I looked up the cost of the concert tickets, flight tickets, hotels, transportation, and food, the bare minimum figure I could get is still around $1,000. It could very well be, and probably is, a lot more than that. I've supported him through a lot of things, but this weekend, while he's off having fun and leaving us to fend for ourselves, I'm slowly planning my divorce. I'm playing nice while I get all of my ducks in a row, but this is it for me. I'm tired of watering down essentials like shampoo or laundry soap, living off rice and beans just for him to turn around and take out a loan so that he can go to a show all by himself across the country. Update. I wasn't expecting I'd need an update already, but he knows. Someone here decided to share my vent elsewhere and he saw it on Facebook. He's angry that I've made him look like a jerk. I told him all I did was talk about it without naming him, and if people decide he's a jerk based on his actions, he's got no one to blame but himself. I'm so nervous, I'm shaking, and I feel like I'm sick. Some friends have offered to come help me pack and let me and the boys stay with them until I can figure out something more permanent. Edit. Also, please don't try to send me or anyone pretending to be me or pretending to collect on my behalf anything. We're in good hands right now, and we're not going to go without. I figured, since this whole thing blew up today, I might as well tell all of my friends what's going on, and they've really pulled up for us. So, we're definitely going to be okay. My ex was a huge juggalette. Knowing all their songs, was big in the community, all that jazz. Like you, I tried to be supportive, even though I didn't like their everything for the most part. It was almost her whole identity to be one. I too learned the hard way that the needs of us/me were secondary to that lifestyle. We never spent Valentine's Day together because that was Juggalo Day, so she had to be somewhere. The one time I decided to give it a try, I had to back out because I needed to work a bunch of overtime in order to not get behind on bills, and she went without me. She would bend over backwards to overwork herself in order to pay for tickets to these events, but wouldn't do the same when money was getting tight for bills. When I broke my foot 2 days after buying a house for us, she would barely work to help with the bills, but would work to buy tickets. While I was out of work and unable to walk, she would leave for a week or two to go to these events and leave me alone, all the while trying to convince me to go with a broken foot. All while I had to dip into my dwindling savings to pay for everything. In the 4 months I was out of work, she contributed $1,200 total for all 4 months, even though we agreed to go half and half on bills, which was about $850 for both of us after everything was said and done. Normally I don't respond to these kinds of posts with, "You should leave them," because it feels callous to say, because sometimes you can't just leave them like you leave a bad party. But this, leave them. Let them live their one-note life. Maybe, like my ex, he'll find someone just as into that culture and they can be happy together. You deserve someone who doesn't throw you to the side just because it's maybe the last time I'll get to see them live, or whatever other excuse they come up with. The excuses never stop, and that trust can't realistically be rebuilt. Am I the jerk for trying to get my daughter to switch schools? My ex and I share custody of our daughter, Kelly, who's 12. She was 3 when we split. We have a court order that we have to share the cost of her education through her graduating high school, and we have a 2 yes, 1 no policy. We did this as we always intended for her to attend private schools, which is quite the investment. Plus, she's both of our kid. Kelly's been in a private school that focuses on STEM. It's K through 12, so she's been there since kindergarten. She loves it. The only issue has been it's a bit of a drive, 45 minutes, and they don't have buses. We've tried to find carpool situations, but the only person from the school in our area moved a few years ago. No relatives nearby to help. We tried hiring someone to drive her, but they weren't reliable. Still, it's been worth the sacrifice. Important note, Kelly lives with me during the week and sees her dad on the weekends. I'm the one who brings her to and from school. Last year I remarried. My husband brought his 2 kids into the relationship. They're 16 and 17. Both attend a private school in town. Similar issue with no busing. We also don't have their own cars and we can't afford that. My husband is a widower, so he's their only parent. He starts work at 6 a.m., so it's up to me to get the kids to school every day. It's been a bit of a mess trying to get everyone there on time. My stepkid's private school doesn't have before or after school programs and starts after Kelly's. It's a tight squeeze to get her there, then get back to their school. After much discussion, my husband and I decided it would be best for Kelly to start at her step-sibling school. We talked to my ex about it, and he was very hesitant, but said if Kelly wanted it, he'd be on board. Kelly doesn't want to. This school doesn't have a STEM program. She doesn't want to leave her friends. She asked why her step-siblings don't have to move to her school, and I said it's because that's more than my husband can afford. I'd chip in, but I can't afford to pay 2.5 tuitions, the half being what I pay for hers. Plus, they aren't into STEM or science, which is what the school is heavily focused on. Kelly is refusing to go. I've tried talking to her, bribing her, etc. She isn't budging. Therefore, neither is her dad. It's frustrating, and I voiced that. I even tried to compromise that it would just be up until her step-siblings graduated. 2 years. And she said, in that case, I should easily put up with this for 2 years. Now she's been at her dad's and says she's not coming home until I drop the matter. I said I want to talk about it, but she refuses. Am I the jerk? Edit. As it's come up several times, prior to me, my husband and his kids lived closer to their school. Now they live with me, and that's out of walking distance. My stepkids are on financial aid for school. We have a mortgage. It isn't just the cost of the car, but gas and insurance. Yes, I can afford my daughter's tuition and a driver at one point, but I was splitting the cost with my ex, who makes far more. Edit 2. The money saved from going from 2 homes to 1 has gone to medical debt from his wife passing of cancer, plus helping me pay off my mortgage. We don't have the money. There's no public transport. No one is willing to take them. You're the jerk. You have a kid who actually likes going to school, and you pull her out because of your stepkids? Ask your husband to drive his own kids before work instead of neglecting your own. You can afford 3 kids in private school and to hire a driver, but can't afford cars for the teenagers? That's laughable. Get them cheap cars like most teens get, or tell them to save up and buy their own car like the rest. But you can absolutely afford a car, just maybe not one as nice as your apparent lifestyle would be accustomed to. And you're the jerk. It sounds like she's in the better school, and it wouldn't be such a tight run if she was dropped off a bit earlier. You can't just uproot her social life and aspirations like STEM, etc., because it's easier for your new family, which she didn't get a say in. Maybe you should switch so she lives with her dad in the week and you on the weekends to make school transport easier, or hire a better or more reliable driver for her. But she should stay in the school she's in. Why should she get a bad deal because it's inconvenient for you and your new family when she as your biological daughter should come first? If hubby can't afford his kids' school fees, that's his problem, not hers. Karen expected me to risk my life for her. I, 29 male, work for a small hardware store in my city. I'm about 6'2", chubby, but still muscular from all the heavy lifting I do for work. Early this morning, me, and we will call her Nancy, 49 female, were at the store before opening to do inventory. It was about an hour before opening, and Nancy went outside to grab something from her car. She came back in a few minutes later with someone walking behind her, holding her at pew-pew point. I've never been involved in any kind of robbery before, aside from minor shoplifting attempts, so I froze in place. The guy then pointed it at me, telling me to keep my hands visible and to follow them. Nancy was technically the opening manager and therefore had keys to the store and vault in the back office, so he held me up while she emptied it. He was gone in about 10 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. Our store doesn't have any kind of silent alarm, so once we were sure he was gone, I went and called 911. After I got off the phone, Nancy comes up to me and asks, word for word, "What is wrong with you?" I stare at her, completely caught off guard, and asked her what she was talking about. She proceeds to rant at me up until the police arrive. To sum up her rant, she basically said I was a pathetic excuse of a man for not protecting a single mother when she was in danger. I asked her what she expected me to do in that situation. She expected me to try to get the pew-pew away from him so that he couldn't hurt her. It was around that point that the police arrived to take our statements and ensured we were okay. My actual boss is on vacation this week, but has given me the next 2 days off, paid, I love this guy, to recover from the shock of the situation and to call him if I need anything. I haven't told him about Nancy's rant yet. I'm still trying to process everything she said to me. Nancy is divorced, and her son is a 19-year-old college student who doesn't live with her. During her rant, she kept going on about how, "Who would watch my baby if something happened to me?" Stuff like that. I'm hoping it was just adrenaline from the robbery, but if the next time I see her she's still acting this way, I'll report her. Edit 2. There have been some comments claiming Nancy was in on it. She seemed genuinely terrified, so I doubt she was, but now I can't get that thought out of my head. Update. The hardware store I work for is small, just in the physical sense. It's still technically one of the big-name hardware stores in the US, just not warehouse-sized like the ones with the orange and blue logos. 2. When I said that Nancy had emptied the vault, I wasn't referring to an actual safe or lockbox. The vault in our store refers to a small, double-locked room where they store the money orders the store receives from the big armored trucks. 3. Nancy actually is the HR manager for our store. Because the store manager was out of town for the week, she was the acting store manager along with the other person who was off that day. My actual store manager, Nancy, and the third associate are the only ones with keys to the vault. Now for the update. I'm not sure if I'm more angry or scared right now, but I got off the phone with my store manager half an hour ago. He was reviewing the security camera footage that was sent to him from his hotel room. I knew the store had cameras. What I didn't know is that we have cameras that face the parking lot. Some of you mentioned it in the comments, so you may not be surprised to hear that Nancy has been arrested for assisting in robbing the store. I can't go into extreme detail, but according to my boss, the robber was seen exiting Nancy's car when she went outside. They spoke for a bit before walking back to the store. I don't know much else aside from the guy was her new boyfriend. I'm feeling so many different emotions right now. Confusion, anger, fear, etc. She did all of this for just a few $1,000s. I don't know if she was chewing me out about the single mother thing because she had hoped I would have done something to warrant getting hurt over. All I know is that this woman, who originally did my hiring interview, is insane. As I said, I think I'm going to look into therapy for this. It's just too much for me to process alone. My boss has offered me additional leave of absence if needed as well. So for now, I'm going to take some time off, and if I get any more info I can share, I'll further update you. 10 years ago, I gave dating advice to a neckbeard and still think about him. So this happened when I, now 30 female, was in college on a dating site. I was messaged by a neckbeard looking guy. In his profile pic, he wore a fedora, had a beard, was overweight, etc. His opening message was something along the lines of, "I know there's no way you'd ever be into me, but you seem really cool." I knew that I wasn't interested in him romantically, but I checked out his profile because I was also looking for friends and wanted to see what we had in common. What I saw on his page broke my heart. Just paragraphs of him saying self-deprecating things about how he's lame or ugly, or a loser that no one would ever want to date. He was practically apologizing for existing. I think what hurt the most was knowing a lot of what he wrote down was probably said to him in the past, and as someone who's been bullied before and also had self-confidence issues, I couldn't turn a blind eye. I replied to him and politely told him I'm not interested in dating him, but asked if I could give him some advice for his profile. He agreed to hear me out, and I began typing away. I think I spent a solid 15 to 30 minutes writing my reply. I explained that if you write paragraphs about how much you think you suck and aren't fun to date, people will believe you and not give you a chance. I said he should try to talk more about his interests and what he likes to do so that he's more likely to appeal to someone with the same interests and hobbies as him. I emphasized that he should try and put his best foot forward and talk more about his good qualities, being a good friend or a good listener or open-minded, etc. Once I clicked send, I waited for his response with bated teeth. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of, "Honestly, I was expecting you to tear me apart and make fun of me, but this sounds genuinely helpful. Thank you." We wished each other good luck and never spoke again since. It's been over 10 years since that exchange happened, and I frequently wonder what happened to him. I've been thinking about him a lot more since the rise of Alpha Bro podcasts. I want to believe he tried working on his self-confidence issues and was able to move forward, but I also know that people online are mean, and there was definitely a culture of making fun of people in fedoras with neckbeards, even if they weren't pulling the "m'lady" stuff. I know that even if he's on Reddit, the odds of him finding this post are slim to none. But if you're a guy who wore a fedora in Maryland or DC 10 years ago and got online dating advice from a lady who was an art major, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're doing better. I hope you learn to love more about yourself, and I hope you found love too.